Chapter 395. And Lin and Lu Qianhuan began to search for their targets in the forest of 1,000 peaks. The teachers in charge of assessing the combat strength found that the two of them had no intention of participating in the battle. Instead, they seemed to be searching for something. And Lin and Lu Qianhuan didn't break the free-for-all battle rule. So even though the teachers were puzzled and perplexed, they didn't stop them. Before they knew it, the two of them had already flown for close to 8 hours. They had searched almost the entire eastern side of the forest of 1,000 peaks, but they still couldn't find their 4 targets. We're so unlucky. Su Xiaolan, Xianyuan Cheng, Su Qianyan, and Zhuo Qiubing are nowhere to be seen, Lu Qianhuan said in exasperation. This means that there's a greater chance that they'll meet in the other direction. We have to hurry. And Lin was a little annoyed. No one could remain calm and collected in the face of the threat of becoming a eunuch. Just like that, they searched the southern side of the forest of 1,000 peaks again. And Lin couldn't help but sigh with emotion as he watched Lu Debao exchange blows with a student of the 10th stage Dao body. Thinking back, Lu Debao had come here for others to farm points for. Now he could farm points for others as well. Lu Debao's divine sun technique imbued every punch and kick with the pure power of the sun. As for the other ice-type spell technique student, he could only rely on his nimble maneuvering techniques to fight back. In the end, the ice-type student was still defeated by Lu Debao's iron fists. After watching this battle, and Lin continued his search. This time, they arrived at the western side of the forest of 1,000 peaks. Night gradually fell. In order to make the most of their time, the two of them swallowed a fasting pill and continued their search, without resting. Battles were still ongoing on the ground, and the booming sounds of spell techniques pierced through the silent night from time to time. And Lin suddenly felt a subtle fluctuation of vital energy as he flew east. He immediately turned and flew toward a mountain peak in the distance. The feeling became more and more intense, and there were thunderous sounds that sounded like the roars of ancient beasts. Finally, after advancing for several kilometers, they saw an extremely huge black cyclone appear in the sky. There were faint flashes of lightning, and it contained powerful energy. The two of them landed on the ground and slowly approached the place where the battle was taking place. Boom! Another deafening sound rang out, and the center of the battle suddenly exploded with lightning. The two figures retreated at the same time, and Lin's heart jolted when he saw the figures in battle, and he almost charged out. But Lu Qianhuan held him back with a firm grip. Calm down, Lu Qianhuan urged solemnly, and Lin's veins bulged as he stared at the figure in battle. The fury in his eyes was not concealed at all. The people who were fighting were Su Xiaolan and Zhuo Qiubing. Su Xiaolan's jade barley ink garment was already stained with blood, and there were ghastly gashes on her abdomen and arms. However, her expression was extremely calm as she stared at the man before her with a cold expression. A suit of lightning had appeared over Zhuo Qiubing's body, and he was also a little disheveled. But his injuries were not as severe as Su Xiaolan's. The area within a radius of 50 feet around him had been enshrouded by a blue lightning domain, and there was a massive lightning kirin over 10 meters tall behind him with a frosty light emanating from its eyes. The two of them took a step forward and collided again. Su Xiaolan wielded her dragon sparrow sword, which was imbued with the power to slice through all things. Zhuo Qiubing's main method of attack was to control the lightning kirin to attack, and he was completely unfazed by Su Xiaolan's sword strikes. You stay here, I'll sneak up on them. And Lin felt like he couldn't just sit around and do nothing. He still had a ball of rage that he had yet to vent, so he immediately made a decision. You're crazy. Our teachers are watching from above. If you interfere in their battle or try anything funny, you'll be kicked out of this restricted area. Lu Qianhuan tried to dissuade him. I have a way, and Lin replied. Immediately afterward, his body slowly faded into the darkness, and even his aura began to disappear. This was the Inmo's inheritance, shadow manifestation, and Lin was only at the soul formation stage. So even his teachers wouldn't be able to detect his presence in this dark environment. Lu Qianhuan's mouth gaped open in shock. She didn't think that Lin would be able to disappear right before her eyes, and she couldn't even detect his aura. Above the enchantment barrier in the sky, Earth Immortal Wu Tong was watching the battle between Su Xiaolan and Zhuo Qiubing with keen interest, completely oblivious to the changes taking place outside of the battlefield. And Lin slowly approached and arrived behind a boulder within 1,000 feet of them. Flames of rage flared up in his heart at the sight of the injuries on Su Xiaolan's body. Even though he knew that injuries were a very common occurrence in a free-for-all battle, he still couldn't help but be enraged at the sight of Su Xiaolan being beaten to such a sorry state. Boom! Su Xiaolan's lightning fire sword projection sliced the oncoming lightning Kirin in half. Zhuo Qiubing stumbled back a few steps, and the lightning in his domain suddenly became several times more concentrated, forming the lightning Kirin again. Give up, Su Xiaolan. You've defeated Su Qianyin, which is enough for you to enter the top 5 of the Immortal Rankings board and make a name for yourself in the Celestial Court. You've already fought 2 battles in a row, so your vital energy must be completely depleted. If you continue to fight me like this, you'll only be in more pain. What else can you achieve? Zhuo Qiubing spoke in a cold voice. Su Xiaolan wielded her long sword, and her lithe and graceful body was enshrouded in golden flames. Her aura began to soar explosively, and her eyes turned golden as an intimidating dragon might exude it from her body. You challenged me while I was at my weakest, and now you're telling me to surrender? Do you really think I'm a pushover? I won't back down from this battle. Su Xiaolan's voice was cold, but it was tinged with an indescribable sense of determination. And Lin faltered upon hearing this before becoming even more enraged. So Su Xiaolan had already defeated Su Qianyin, and Zhuo Qiubing was here to F*King land the killing blow on her. Holy F*CK, how could I tolerate this? Zhuo Qiubing was going to F*King land the killing blow on my D*CK. This is how the free-for-all battle is supposed to be. No one cares if you're exhausted or not. Zhuo Qiubing's expression remained unchanged as he made his way towards Su Xiaolan. The lightning Kirin behind him grew more and more fearsome, and its body expanded from over 30 feet to over 50 feet. The lightning power imbued within its body was also several times more powerful than before. And Lin heard these familiar words coming from both Lu Qianhuan and Zhuo Qiubing's mouths. But why did they feel so different to him? Zhuo Qiubing crossed his arms as white lightning burst forth from his eyes. Lightning danced violently within his domain, and the sound of crackling booms could be heard for several kilometers. I attain my domain from observing Lin's tribulation transcendence, and my self-invented Kirin technique was also derived from the enlightenment I attained that day. My spell technique is imbued with the might of heaven and earth. So be careful, Su Xiaolan. Su Xiaolan thought back to Lin's tribulation transcendence, and she raised her head like a proud phoenix with a faint smile. Your Kirin technique isn't all that impressive either. It's far inferior compared to him. And Lin was a little happy to hear Su Xiaolan's words. As expected, it was the most satisfying to hear someone compliment him behind his back. It was so genuine. However, he quickly came to his senses. He was about to become a eunuch, so he couldn't let his joy turn to sorrow. Zhuo Qiubing's expression darkened, and he waved a hand through the air. The lightning Kirin behind him roared as it pounced towards Su Xiaolan with the terrifying might of heaven and earth. Su Xiaolan's expression was completely fearless as her dragon sparrow sword pierced through the air. A sword projection of over 1,000 feet in length lit up the entire sky as it hurtled toward the lightning Kirin. Chapter 396. Above the enchantment barrier, Earth Immortal Wu Tong heaved a faint sigh as he held a pen in his hand. Looks like this battle is about to end. The lightning Kirin is even more powerful than that sword projection. It's a pity that the technique that Su Xiaolan used against Su Qianyan can only be used once in a short period of time. Otherwise, she would still have a chance to defeat Zhuo Qiubing. On the ground below, the sword projection, over 1,000 feet tall, instantly split open the earth before hurtling toward the gargantuan lightning Kirin with unstoppable force. A faint smile appeared on Zhuo Qiubing's face. He knew that this battle was about to end, and victory was his. Su Xiaolan's features were deathly pale, but her expression was extremely proud. She was not going to bow her head even in the final moment. In the instant that the sword projection came into contact with the lightning Kirin suddenly turned tail and fled as if it had encountered something extremely terrifying. Su Xiaolan was dumbstruck. Zhuo Qiubing was also dumbstruck. The lightning Kirin was being chased by the lightning flame sword projection before pouncing toward Zhuo Qiubing. Stop! We're on the same side. Zhuo Qiubing unleashed the power of his domain in an attempt to control the lightning Kirin. At the same time, there was a hint of fear in his voice. The lightning Kirin did not stop. It crashed through Zhuo Qiubing's domain before shattering his lightning armor. Immediately afterward, the sword projection, imbued with the might of a dragon and a phoenix, crashed into Zhuo Qiubing's body with unparalleled force. Boom! Flames soared into the sky as lightning roared like a massive ancient dragon. Zhuo Qiubing's entire body was enshrouded in a golden light as he flew into the sky before crashing heavily to the ground. His defeat judgment seal had already been activated, and he looked around at his surroundings with a blank expression on his face. Why would my lightning Kirin be afraid of your sword projection? Su Xiaolan slowly made her way towards Zhuo Qiubing as she looked around, but she didn't see anyone else. However, she was far too familiar with this power. Perhaps it's because true dragons and phoenixes are of a higher status than Kirins? She asked with a smile. Bulsh *T. Did you see that golden void lightning Kirin? How could it possibly be afraid of dragons and phoenixes? Zhuo Qiubing gritted his teeth. But your Kirin isn't a golden void lightning Kirin. Even if it was a golden void lightning Kirin, it would still behave like a puppy in front of Enlin. It would do whatever he tells it to do. Is it that powerful? Su Xiaolan shook her head with a smile. Zhuo Qiubing's chest felt heavy when he heard this, and he spat out another mouthful of blood. In the end, he transformed into a ray of golden light with extreme unwillingness and vanished from the world. When Su Xiaolan saw this scene, she finally heaved a sigh of relief. Her body swayed slightly, as if she was about to collapse from exhaustion. At this moment, in a certain part of the void not far away, there was a faint ripple, but it soon calmed down. She looked around again to find a sea of stars and a bright moon hanging high in the sky. Under the moonlight, there was no one to be seen. So be it. Perhaps this is heaven's will. Zhuo Qiubing clearly attained the power of the Kirin because of Enlin, but he used that power against his good friend. He deserves to suffer a spell technique backlash. Su Xiaolan shook her head with a smile before sitting down to meditate and recover from her injuries. And Lin nodded with elation. Using lightning to bully Su Xiaolan? Wasn't that courting death? His lightning manipulation technique could even control the golden void lightning Kirin. So how could he not control that little Kirin of yours? Just as Enlin was thinking this, Earth Immortal Wu Tong was staring at Su Xiaolan with a dumbstruck expression. What was going on? Did he miss something? Earth Immortal Wu Tong carefully recalled the scenes of that battle, but he still couldn't understand why the lightning Kirin had suddenly turned tail and fled. Could it really have been scared away by Su Xiaolan's domineering aura? He suddenly remembered that stormy day, where there was a fierce man who caused an even more bizarre scene than this. Could it be classmate Enlin? Wait, I don't see Enlin anywhere. He looked carefully at the plants down below before discovering a woman 1.5 kilometers away. She was leaning against a rock and playing with her phone. It was none other than Lu Qianhuan. It can't be Lu Qianhuan. And Lin must have taught Su Xiaolan some kind of lightning manipulation mystic technique. Sigh. Students these days are becoming more and more freakish. Earth Immortal Wu Tong heaved a faint sigh as he began to jot down some numbers. Su Xiaolan. Combat capability 1050. Achievement score 920. He then glanced at the data of the number 1 seed, Lu Qianhuan, who was fighting for second place on the Immortal Rankings board. Apparently, she hadn't battled since then. Lu Qianhuan. Combat capability 860. Achievement score 380. Classmate Lu Qianhuan knew that classmate Su Xiaolan was injured and exhausted, yet she didn't take advantage of her. Instead, she chose to play games off to the side and silently wait for her opponent to recover from her injuries before fighting her head-on. She's a model student for all students. Earth Immortal Wu Tong nodded in praise, and Lin hesitated momentarily as he looked at the woman meditating under the moonlight. In the end, he still slowly moved toward Lu Qianhuan. Even though his sea of vital energy was almost twice as large as in normal soul formation stage cultivators, he still couldn't keep up with this constant depletion of vital energy. Lu Qianhuan was just playing her game excitedly when a gust of cold wind suddenly blew past her ear, causing her body to tremble. "Who's there?" Her eyes widened as she looked to her left, but she couldn't see anyone. At this moment, she was tapped on her right shoulder. She couldn't help but look to her right, but a human face suddenly appeared on her left. "Ah!" Lu Qianhuan screamed as she slapped toward that person's face. Slap. The person was sent flying by the slap. Boom! The person crashed into a boulder, and the entire boulder was pulverized. 1.5 kilometers away, Su Xiaolan opened her eyes and looked toward the direction where the sound had come from. Her brows furrowed slightly. She felt like she had heard that voice somewhere before. "Holy F***CK. I was just pranking you. Are you trying to F***king kill me?" And Lin rubbed his red and swollen face as he glared at Lu Qianhuan. If he were still at the spirit nurturing stage, his handsome face would definitely be disfigured. Lu Qianhuan couldn't help but snort upon seeing that it was in Lin. "Who told you to scare me? Serves you right." And Lin heaved a forlorn sigh. On Earth, if a man pranked a girl, the girl would definitely respond with wah wah wah, and "you're so naughty." At most, the girl would just hammer him in the chest. But his prank here was greeted with a slap that was as heavy as 1,000 caddies. The morals of the world were degenerating with each passing day. Above the enchantment barrier, Earth Immortal Wu Tong also seemed to have heard a voice. He looked toward that direction and suddenly discovered a second person. "That's classmate and Lin, right? Ah, are Lin and Lu Qianhuan going to fight?" "No, they don't seem to be fighting. Instead, they're chatting. That's strange. Why couldn't I detect his presence with my divine sense earlier? When did he get here?" Earth Immortal Wu Tong's brows furrowed in bewilderment. "So be it. Perhaps it's because I haven't had enough rest recently, so my mind is a little muddled." That must be it. At this moment, and Lin and Lu Qianhuan were using telescopic immortal techniques to peek at Su Xiaolan. "What do we do now?" Lu Qianhuan asked softly, and Lin thought for a moment before replying. "Big Brother Cheng is our only remaining threat. Why don't we follow Su Xiaolan and wait for her to encounter Big Brother Cheng? Then we'll rush up and kill Big Brother Cheng, then challenge Su Xiaolan to a battle." Lu Qianhuan nodded. "No problem, let's do that. How exciting." No one would have thought that Su Xiaolan would be the one to clinch the top spot on the Immortal Rankings board. If I had known this would happen, I would have gone to the university's gambling den to place a bet. There was a hint of disappointment on her face, but she quickly returned to her work and continued to secretly observe Su Xiaolan with Lin. Chapter 397. The third day of the free-for-all battle was also the last day. The enchantment barrier around the forest of 1,000 peaks began to shrink. In the end, it would shrink to a size of a few kilometers in radius. Over 99% of the students had already been eliminated. They all sat on the white jade plaza, treating their injuries as they silently stared at the inky black crystal screen. When there are only 200 students left, the crystal screen will be broadcasting the battle in real time. I'm really looking forward to seeing senior student and Lynn's heroic performance. This year's free-for-all battle has been particularly intense. Over half of the top powerful beings on the Immortal Rankings board have been eliminated in the past 2 days. Normally, people of their caliber would only start fighting on the last day. Who would have thought that they would be eliminated so soon? I know, right? It's no surprise that Yao Mingxi, Yao Xiao, and Luo Zipping have met with mishaps. However, Su Qianyin, Tang Shimin, and Zuo Qiubing are all top 10 powerful beings on the Immortal Rankings board. It's incredible that they've been eliminated so early. It's most likely senior student and Lynn's doing. It's very likely that student and Lynn's doing, just as all the students were discussing spiritedly among themselves. The crystal screen suddenly lit up. The cheers of the students instantly spread throughout the entire plaza. After waiting for so long, they finally had a chance to watch their idols battle. Over half of the students were searching for a certain figure among the hundreds of different screens. Look, senior student and Lin is over there. Wow, how did he hook up with Lu Qinhuan? My heart hurts so much. Me too? Why didn't senior student and Lin summon me? What are they doing? It feels like they're being a little sneaky. They seem to be following someone, but I can't see them clearly. Look, Prince Charming Xian Yuanqing has also begun his battle. I think he's fighting Huguan. There's no suspense. A female student immediately retorted with displeasure upon hearing this. What do you know? We're not looking to see how intense his battle is. We're looking at his face. Xian Yuanqing was probably the only person in the entire school who could make a student say such words openly and without any psychological burden. Hu Guan's punches were incomparably ferocious, and every punch had the power to collapse mountains and split the earth. However, Xian Yuanqing's sword was like flowing water, graceful and agile to the extreme. Every time, he would always be able to easily dispel Hu Guan's attack and then conveniently leave a bloody mark on his arm. Xian Yuanqing usually wouldn't be too heavy-handed towards his students. Many of the students who lost to him were defeated due to the exhaustion of their vitality. When they fell to the ground, Xian Yuanqing only needed to push the blade of his sword towards them, and the defeat judgment seal would naturally be activated. Many students watching the crystal screen couldn't help but sigh. Xian Yuanqing's battle was really pleasing to the eye. Even though Hu Guan was the strongest among the first-year students, he was still worn down by Xian Yuanqing and collapsed to the ground. Student Hu Guan, your performance is not bad. You're the first person to force me into this state. Xian Yuanqing smiled warmly and stabbed his sword towards Hu Guan's heart. Hu Guan grimaced as he cursed in his heart. Xian Yuanqing seemed to have said the same line when he fought against the last student who lost to him. Would it kill him to change his line? Can't you be more sincere? Kacha! A crisp sound rang out, and Hu Guan's defeat judgment seal appeared. A faint smile appeared on Xian Yuanqing's face as he nodded at Hu Guan before departing on his sword. At this moment, Lu Qianhuan and Enlin were running on the ground, chasing after Su Xiaolan, who was flying on her sword 1.5 kilometers away. Their cultivation bases were higher than Su Xiaolan's, and they were also far away, so it was easy for them to conceal their auras. After a night of rest, Su Xiaolan's injuries had mostly healed, and she began to battle again. Some of these students were of the Dao body stage, so they could take care of them in 1 or 2 strikes. Some of them were of the spirit nurturing stage, so they had to expend a bit more effort to defeat them, but they could still emerge unscathed. And Lin looked at Su Xiaolan in the distance, and he thought to himself that this free-for-all battle should be in the bag. Even if it wasn't, it had to be. Otherwise, he wouldn't be a man anymore. The enchantment barrier was slowly shrinking, and the battle was also becoming more and more intense. All of the students on the white jade plaza were looking at Enlin with confused expressions. What's Senior Enlin doing? Why isn't he fighting? It's been an hour already. He's running and stopping, and he's looking in a certain direction with a mysterious expression. What the hell is he doing? God and thoughts aren't something we can fathom. Perhaps he's plotting some earth-shattering battle with Senior Lu Qianhuan. I'm so looking forward to seeing Senior and Lin fight after progressing to the soul formation stage. A pretty female student stared at the screen with infatuation on her face. All of the intense battles aside, just looking at Enlin's sprinting figure was enough to make her heart flutter. Before they knew it, the enchantment barrier had already shrunk to a radius of 5 kilometers. There were only about 20 people left in the forest of 1,000 peaks, and Enlin and Lu Qianhuan hadn't even made a move yet, but some of the students had already figured out who they were following. My God, they're tailing Su Xiaolan. What kind of ulterior motive is this? I'm really looking forward to it. I really don't understand. Look, Su Xiaolan and Xian Yuancheng have encountered each other. This image instantly attracted the attention of most of the students on the plaza. In the forest of 1,000 peaks, Su Xiaolan and Xian Yuancheng both faltered slightly upon seeing each other. Xian Yuancheng didn't think that he would have to battle Su Xiaolan, and his expression became solemn as Su Xiaolan had the ability to defeat him. Third year, Class 1, Xian Yuancheng, please enlighten me. He extended a graceful curtsy, as if he were a refined gentleman. Su Xiaolan also returned his curtsy, and was just about to speak, when a soft voice suddenly sounded from the distance. Fifth year, Class 1, Lu Qianhuan, please enlighten me. Everything happened in a flash. A streak of pink light suddenly appeared before Su Xiaolan. Lu Qianhuan extended a respectful curtsy toward Xian Yuancheng with a smug expression on her face. Su Xiaolan and Xian Yuancheng both faltered upon seeing this. Lu Qianhuan, what are you? Su Xiaolan didn't know how to react. Lu Qianhuan smiled. Sister Su Xiaolan, this Xian Yuancheng is my prey. Please step aside. Xian Yuancheng looked at the woman before him with a bitter expression. Sister Lu, I don't think I've provoked you. Lu Qianhuan blinked her bright purple eyes. Who told you to be so handsome? I've never sparred with a man as handsome as you before. Now that we're about to graduate, how about you fulfill your senior sister's wish? Xian Yuancheng. Su Xiaolan silently stepped aside and stood off to the side. All the students on the plaza stared at the scene unfolding on the crystal screen in bewilderment. Never would they have thought that Lu Qianhuan would target Xian Yuancheng after such a long time. What kind of unspeakable secret was this? Chapter 398. Lu Qianhuan began her attack right before everyone's expectant eyes. Her 6-feathered staff glowed brightly as beams of rainbow energy materialized before hurtling toward Xian Yuancheng. Each beam of light was comparable to a full-force attack from a spirit-nurturing final stage, Cultivator. Xian Yuancheng's expression was calm and collected as he executed the Tai Chi steps, evading the beams of energy with incredible speed. Occasionally, there would be 1 or 2 beams of light that he was unable to evade and would crash into his body, but they would also be warped by some kind of peculiar spatial distortion, thereby altering their trajectories. Rumble! Behind him, the beams of light exploded, causing the earth to tremor violently. Be careful! Xian Yuancheng spoke lightly as he stamped his foot down, and his speed broke through the sound barrier as he charged toward Lu Qianhuan. Lu Qianhuan was in her young sorceress form, so she naturally couldn't allow Xian Yuancheng to get close to her, so she immediately retreated. Immortal Sealing Technique. Xian Yuancheng gripped the air toward the retreating Lu Qianhuan with his white-gloved left hand. All of a sudden, several semi-transparent golden chains appeared in the air before flying toward Lu Qianhuan like flying snakes. This was the immortal tool that Xian Yuancheng had purchased at the Shouyang tomb, the immortal sealing glove. Aya, you're so young, yet you're trying to use the binding play on me. Lu Qianhuan twisted her slender waist, and her six-feathered staff swept through the air to create a pink barrier of light that repelled the golden chains. However, in the split second that she had been delayed, Xian Yuancheng had already appeared before Lu Qianhuan with his ancient sword in hand. He unleashed his myriad spirit, Tai Chi, sword technique to its fullest extent and dragged Lu Qianhuan into a quagmire. He used the power of his myriad spirit fusion technique to completely suppress her and prevent her from being able to open up a distance. And Lin's palms were drenched in sweat as he observed from a rock in the distance. He urged Lu Qianhuan to use her sword, or she wouldn't have a chance anymore. At this moment, the area above the barrier had shrunk to the area where the final battle was taking place. The teacher who assessed the combat strength was still Dioscorea Kenkengensis. He stroked his beard and looked at Xian Yuancheng with a gratified expression. Xian Yuancheng's Tao of myriad spirit Tai Chi has already been integrated into his body, and there's a hint of firmness and decisiveness in his gentleness. He's like a blood-soaked warrior on the battlefield, and he's not far away from attaining soul formation stage. At this time, a spatial fluctuation suddenly came from beside him. Then a man with thick eyebrows, big eyes, and a mustache passed through the space and came to Dioscorea Kenkengensis' side. He said, "This student Xian Yuancheng should have comprehended the Tao in the mortal world. I don't know what he experienced, but he went from being gentle to encompassing all things, slowly transforming into a move that contained explosive power in his body. He's like an invisible bomb that could explode at any moment." Dioscorea Kenkengensis immediately bowed, respectfully with a smile. "Vice Principal Yu Hua, I didn't think you'd find the time to come and spectate the battle. How rare." Vice Principal Yu Hua smiled. "I am here mainly to see the performance of our school's soul formation stage prodigy. I hope he won't disappoint me." He turned his gaze toward Dioscorea Kenkengensis' scoreboard as he spoke, searching for a certain name. His face convulsed slightly when he saw the name and Lin. And Lin, combat strength? Achievement points? What's going on? Vice Principal Yu Hua was astonished. Student Lin hasn't even fought a single battle. Look, he's still hiding behind that rock, concealing his aura. Dioscorea Kenkengensis pointed to a rock not far away. Vice Principal Yu Hua was even more perplexed upon seeing the man observing from the shadows. What's he doing? Does he need to wait for an opportunity to strike with his level of power? Doesn't he like to flex? Why isn't he fighting? A powerful being of the soul formation stage was already predicted to rank number 1 on the immortal rankings board. Who would have thought that he hadn't even fought a single battle up until now? This was simply incomprehensible. Dioscorea Kenkengensis also heaved a long sigh. Sigh. Perhaps student Lin encountered some problems after transcending the tribulation. You and I both know that the tribulation lightning was extremely strange. Perhaps he encountered some additional obstacles during that tribulation? Is that why he can't fight? Celestial Immortal Yu Hua considered this possibility. In any case, everything related to Lin couldn't be judged by common sense. This made him even more eager to see what would happen next. Meanwhile, the battle between Xian Yuancheng and Lu Qianhuan had reached its climax. Under Xian Yuancheng's relentless attacks, Lu Qianhuan had sustained many injuries and expended a lot of vital energy. Xian Yuancheng's white sword projection became more and more dazzling, forming a boundless trapping formation that she was unable to escape from. On the white jade plaza, most of the students had their attention focused on the battle between Lu Qianhuan and Xian Yuancheng. Who would have thought that Lu Qianhuan would be suppressed by Xian Yuancheng? Xian Yuancheng's swordsmanship is becoming more and more terrifying. Sigh. I was hoping that student Lu Qianhuan would be able to bring glory to our fifth-year seniors, but in the end, she's still going to lose to a third-year prodigy. Xianyuan Cheng is only spirit nurturing final stage, but Lu Qianhuan is a half-step soul formation stage cultivator. I can't believe that she would be defeated by someone of a higher rank than her. I can't accept this. What's so unacceptable about this? Think about how many times God has defeated people of a higher rank than him. That makes sense. I feel much better now that I think about it. What does that have to do with us fifth-year seniors? It's still the third-year prodigy within the forest of 1,000 peaks. Streaks of white, sword projections, swept through the wind and clouds. Lu Qianhuan's body moved rapidly as she defended against Xianyuan Cheng's attacks with great difficulty. Lu Qianhuan, use your sword, Xianyuan Cheng said calmly as he swung his sword. There's no need to hold back here. I need a fair and square battle. Lu Qianhuan sighed lightly in her heart as she looked at Xianyuan Cheng's determined expression. She then recalled what Enlin had once said, and she finally made up her mind. Her storage ring flashed, and a light blue long sword appeared in her hand. A crisp ringing sound reverberated through the air, and the great ice sword appeared. It was also in that instant that the entire heaven and earth was filled with snow and wind. Lu Qianhuan wore a blue ribbon as she stepped on the snow and ice. An aura of extreme frost spread out in all directions, forming an absolute domain. The tens of thousands of students on the White Jade Plaza were all dumbstruck upon seeing this. Apart from the true intent trial of the Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers, this was the first time they had seen Lu Qianhuan fight with a sword. The proud and aloof woman standing alone in the frosty sky was deeply imprinted into their minds. Even Vice Principal Yuhua was astonished. Who would have thought that student Lu Qianhuan's domain would be a climate domain? When this domain is used to its fullest extent, it has the power to transform heaven and earth. As expected of the ancient sword Tao physique, as expected of the exceptional prodigy of the heavenly sword sect. Sigh. It's just a pity that there's a knot in her heart. Very well, I'm going to use my full strength as well. Xianyuan Cheng's expression was calm as a dazzling light erupted from the white gloves in his hands. At the same time, the projection of the yin-yang symbol beneath his feet expanded to 100 feet, dispelling the oncoming frost. Myriad spirit Tai Chi, true sun slash. A peerless golden light suddenly burst forth from Xianyuan Cheng's long sword, which instantly pierced through the clouds and caused the enchantment barrier in the sky to tremor and crack. Stunning snow. Lu Qianhuan's slender hand gripped the great ice sword tightly as she slashed it through the air. Countless snowflakes surged forth as frost and ice surged into the sky. The golden light descended upon Lu Qianhuan, and it was imbued with the true yang intent of all things. It tore through the solidified space and melted the swirling snow and wind. Boundless, white, snow blotted out the sky, and the power of extreme frost within it froze everything it came into contact with. It clashed relentlessly with the golden sword projection, transforming heaven and earth into two colors of gold and white. Chapter 399. The collision of the two spell techniques transformed heaven and earth within a radius of several hundred meters into a wasteland. In the end, the boundless white snow engulfed the golden sword projection, froze Xianyuan Cheng's yin-yang symbol, and inundated Xianyuan Cheng's body. And Lin was extremely shocked as he looked on from behind the boulder. The freezing effect of Lu Qianhuan's spell technique was comparable to the most powerful freezing effect of the Purple Star Extreme Frost Trial. If he were at the spirit nurturing stage, he might not be able to break through this spell technique, even if he used the origin energy of the netherworld. Xianyuan Cheng's defeat judgment seal was activated, and a golden light enshrouded his entire body. Lu Qianhuan withdrew her domain and turned to Xianyuan Cheng with an apologetic expression. I'm sorry. Xianyuan Cheng shook his head with a smile. That's not like you. You defeated me fair and square, Why are you apologizing?" Lu Qianhuan faltered slightly upon hearing this before a faint smile appeared on her face. She looked on as Xianyuan Cheng transformed into a streak of golden light and disappeared between heaven and earth. The students on the white jade plaza were already in an uproar. This was the first climax of the free-for-all battle. Lu Qianhuan is so beautiful. I've already fallen in love with her. This is the first time I've seen her soul formation stage domain. I didn't think it would be so powerful. Student Lu Qianhuan has finally won back the pride of our fifth-year cohort. I'm so happy. Thinking about how I won't be able to see Lu Qianhuan after graduation, I feel like my heart is being twisted by a knife. Thinking about how I won't be able to see Senior and Lin in 2 years, my heart hurts so much that I can't breathe. Hey, student, you're thinking too far ahead. Which B** star just said that Lu Qianhuan would be defeated by Xianyuan Cheng. Step forward. Please be careful with your words. You're going to be surrounded by over 10,000 burly men if you say something like that. Just as the students were discussing fervently, Su Xiaolan had already made her way toward Lu Qianhuan. She then stopped in her tracks with a conflicted expression on her face. Even though it wasn't uncommon to land a killing blow in the free-for-all battle, she was still acquainted with Lu Qianhuan, so she couldn't bear to do something like this. Lu Qianhuan had just endured a fierce battle, and her body was riddled with many wounds. The vital energy within her sea of vital energy had also been severely depleted, and her complexion was also a little pale. She looked at Su Xiaolan and raised her sword. Student Su Xiaolan, it's your turn now. Please enlighten me. Su Xiaolan hesitated for a moment before she shook her head and said with a firm expression, Lu Qianhuan, I don't want to take advantage of you. Take a rest first and recover from your injuries. After that, we'll have a proper battle. Lu Qianhuan, what's with this stubborn personality? You didn't take advantage of this sister's poor state to deal the finishing blow, and you want me to slowly recover my HP? She looked at the determined expression on Su Xiaolan's face and could not help but feel a headache coming on. What was going on? She had already displayed her true strength in front of everyone. If she were to recover and go easy on Lu Qianhuan, everyone would be able to tell. If that happened, Su Xiaolan would definitely feel that she was being looked down upon and humiliated. Then, she would strongly urge Lu Qianhuan to fight seriously. That would be troublesome. However, if she didn't go easy on Lu Qianhuan, there was no guarantee that Su Xiaolan would be able to defeat her. At this moment, a figure suddenly leaped into the air near Lu Qianhuan, and Lin's body suddenly appeared in the air, and his aura was as boundless as the sea, giving off a feeling of invincibility. Tens of thousands of students on the white jade plaza saw and Lin move, and they all stared at the screen in excitement. Some of them even screamed uncontrollably. A boundless golden light burst forth from Lin's right hand, and his left hand drew upon the lightning of heaven and earth. I am the only one in this world. I'm going to destroy the heavens and earth. Following his loud roar, the lightning fused into the projection of his golden fist. Darkness of origin realm, fusion, lightning amplification technique. The golden fist was imbued with the boundless power of the earth, and the black lightning was imbued with the terrifying power of annihilation. After the two of them combined, the space around them instantly began to tremor. A terrifying power radiated outward, and Lu Qianhuan and Su Xiaolan were both struck by a sense of asphyxiation. And Lin's eyes lit up, and he had already stowed his heavenly ice holy robe into his storage ring. He had abandoned all other defensive measures for this moment. He glanced at Lu Qianhuan before viciously smashing his right fist into the ground. Nuclear lightning fist. The golden fist crashed into the ground, and black lightning blossomed like a lotus flower, causing the golden fist to contract before exploding. Boom! An explosion erupted between heaven and earth as boundless light, heat and lightning engulfed and annihilated all things. The earth tremored violently, and a terrifying shock wave swept forth for several kilometers. sending dirt and soil flying into the air as a massive mushroom cloud rose into the air. And Lin had been engulfed by the terrifying energy, but there was a smile of release on his face. There was a rule in the free-for-all battle, and that was that if no one from either side introduced themselves, then it wouldn't count as an official battle invitation. As such, all of their non-targeted activities wouldn't count toward their battle capability or achievement points. And Lin, Lu Qianhuan, and Su Xiaolan didn't reveal their identities, and Lin's attack was aimed directly at the ground, so no matter what damage he inflicted, it wouldn't count toward his achievement points. Su Xiaolan had defeated Zhua Qiubing, who was at the half-step soul formation stage, as well as the powerful Su Qianyan, so her battle capability wouldn't be much lower than Lu Qianhuan's. In terms of achievement points, she would definitely be far superior to Lu Qianhuan, who hadn't killed many monsters. Hence, as long as Lu Qianhuan withdrew here and eliminated all other variables, Su Xiaolan's #1 spot on the Immortal Rankings board would be secured. The earth-shattering explosion inundated the relaxed Lin, the disgruntled Lu Qianhuan, and even the flabbergasted Su Xiaolan in the distance on the white jade plaza. Tens of thousands of students stared at the white crystal screen with dumbstruck expressions. The entire plaza was eerily silent. After a while, a student murmured, "What on earth is Lin doing? I can't figure it out with my IQ. No matter how many times I've seen a move that kills 800 enemies with 1,000 casualties, I still get excited." So Senior Lin really did drag Lu Qianhuan and Su Xiaolan down with him? Su Xiaolan is quite far away, so she might be fine. However, Lu Qianhuan is definitely screwed. The more I think about it, the more I find it strange. And Lin and Lu Qianhuan had been sneaking around for so long. And then Lin used a powerful technique to kill himself and Lu Qianhuan. What the F***CK is he doing? As soon as he said that, the scene fell into silence again. Perhaps the words of a certain student really are true. God and thoughts aren't something we can fathom. Someone murmured. All the students nodded in agreement. They were completely dumbstruck. There was clearly a better way to fight, so why did he self-destruct? What was the point of everything Senior and Lin did in the past? This was like a suspense drama of the year. Above the enchantment barrier, Vice Principal Yuhua and Dioscoria Kankangensis looked at each other before turning their eyes toward the location of the explosion. The energy from the explosion dissipated, and Lu Qianhuan's defeat judgment seal had already been activated. And Lin opened his eyes, and his entire body was in excruciating pain. He saw a space filled with smoke and dust and the cracked and sunken ground. However, he didn't see the golden protective barrier around him. The purple star flame, great holy flame, setting moon flame, and heavenly void flame had enveloped his entire body and Lin. So this meant that the 4 divine fires were protecting their master, allowing him to escape this calamity and not trigger the defeat judgment seal. Chapter 400. Su Xiaolan opened her eyes with great difficulty, and a dazed expression appeared on her delicate features as she stared at the crumbling earth and the vast expanse of dust and debris before her. What was Lin doing? She was extremely perplexed. Su Xiaolan gritted her teeth as she stood up. Her body swayed slightly, and she threw up another mouthful of blood. Because of the sudden explosion, her body had already suffered quite a bit of damage, but she still firmly walked towards the center of the explosion step by step. Finally, she saw Lin, whose clothes were in tatters and his body was charred black. And Lin's injuries were much more severe than hers. If it weren't for the fact that he possessed a soul formation stage body, his defeat judgment seal would have been activated a long time ago. And Lin, are you all right? Su Xiaolan was about to ask Lin why he was doing this, but for some reason, her question became one of concern and concern. And Lin shook his head with a smile as he used his evil-slaying sword to support his body. He turned toward the woman in a plain Taoist robe who was slowly walking toward him. The two of them were already less than 100 meters apart. and Lin gritted his teeth as he pointed his sword at Su Xiaolan. His voice was clear, but it was filled with determination. "Third year, Class 1, and Lin, please enlighten me." Su Xiaolan's footsteps faltered as she stared at Lin with incredulity. She bit down on her lower lip and raised her chin with a hint of arrogance. "I won't fight you." And Lin's expression faltered slightly before he replied, "When two people meet in the free-for-all battle, as long as one of the students introduces themselves, they can force the other party to fight. But I can also choose to run away. With your current condition, do you think you can catch up to me?" Su Xiaolan asked with a serious expression. "And Lin, I'll catch up to you. No matter where you run to, I'll catch up to you." And Lin looked at Su Xiaolan and spoke slowly, as if he was saying something that couldn't be denied. Su Xiaolan's heart trembled. These were clearly very strange words, but she couldn't move away from this place. "Why are you doing this?" Su Xiaolan asked. "Defeat me. I can't defeat anyone in my current condition. Losing to you is the best choice for me." And Lin walked toward Su Xiaolan as he spoke. Su Xiaolan looked at Lin's determined footsteps, and she couldn't help but recall the battle from that day. That battle yesterday, it was me. And Lin didn't wait for Su Xiaolan to finish before nodding and admitting. Su Xiaolan's eyelashes fluttered, and she closed her eyes slightly. She took a deep breath and said, "Then you should defeat me. I'm willing to lose to you." And Lin smiled. "Didn't I say it before? I only bully others, not you." Su Xiaolan stood rooted to the spot as the conversation in the cafeteria slowly surfaced in her mind. "I'm not like you. You're already number 1. So please go easy on me, Earth Immortal and Lin." "No problem, no problem. I only bully others, not you." That day, she smiled sweetly and only cared about teasing Lin. And Lin also replied with a nonchalant expression. Even though Lin had said something that made her a little happy, she had thought that it was just a casual remark. Never would she have thought that Lin would make such a promise. Su Xiaolan felt a lump in her throat as she stared at Lin with reddened eyes. Lightning and flames flashed past the dragon sparrow sword as it faced Lin, who was walking toward her. And Lin began to run faster and faster, and his evil-slaying sword transformed into a black shadow. "Third year, Class 1, and Lin, please enlighten me." "Third year, Class 1, Su Xiaolan, please enlighten me." Golden flames and lightning flashed past, and crimson blood splattered into the sky. "Thank you," and Lin said softly as he pressed a hand over the bloody wound on his arm. His defeat judgment seal had already been activated, and a golden protective barrier enshrouded his entire body. "You're being too much of a bully." Su Xiaolan lowered her head, and the dragon sparrow sword in her hand trembled slightly. A single tear trickled down from the corner of her eye, and it shimmered under the illumination of the flames. And Lin looked at Su Xiaolan. Her beautiful face was already stained with blood, and Lin wanted to wipe it off for her, but he discovered that there was a golden barrier between them. In the end, his body faltered, and he fell into the darkness of teleportation. *CKU system. He had already cursed the system 10,000 times in his heart. On the white jade plaza, all the students stared at the crystal screen with their minds in complete disarray. Could this be the legendary love-hate relationship? Senior and Lin was defeated just like that? I can't accept this. How did this happen? Sigh. I wanted to see Senior and Lin's battle the most in this free-for-all battle, but who would have thought that it would end like this? I seem to have understood something after seeing Goddess Su Xiaolan's expression. Just as the students were discussing spiritedly among themselves, a streak of golden light converged, and Lin appeared on the white jade plaza. All the students around him turned to look at him, some with scorching light in their eyes, some with confusion, and some with a hint of sympathy on their faces. He heaved a sigh of relief before lying down on the ground and closing his eyes as he accepted the healing effects of the spell formation. He didn't hear or see anything in the air above the enchantment barrier of the forest of 1,000 peaks. Song Qing, who was responsible for recording the combat capability, was feeling a headache and exasperation. Vice Principal Yu Hua was also at a complete loss. He was here to witness Lin's power after progressing to the soul formation stage, wasn't he? And now they were being given a battle like this. Song Qing, what do you think of this? Celestial Immortal Yu Hua asked. Principal, Song Qing feels like there's something fishy going on here. Dioscoria Kankangensis replied with a solemn expression. Vice Principal Yu Hua glared at Song Qing. Can you not talk nonsense with me? Everyone knows there's something fishy about this battle. Dioscoria Kankangensis wiped the sweat off his forehead. I think student Lin has given up on himself. Otherwise, he's trying to hide his strength and self-destruct to withdraw from the free-for-all battle. Vice Principal Yu Hua rolled his eyes. Then he could have self-destructed as soon as he entered. Why would he want to harm others? Dioscoria Kankangensis naturally knew what Vice Principal Yu Hua was referring to. Could it be that he did this for Su Xiaolan? He asked with an uncertain expression. It's not just Lin. Perhaps even Lu Qianhuan did this for Su Xiaolan. Sigh. I really don't understand the thoughts of these young people. Vice Principal Yu Hua sighed with a weary expression. Dioscoria Kankangensis looked at the newly updated names on the scoreboard. Su Xiaolan, combat capability, 1180 achievement score, 1320 Lu Qianhuan, combat capability, 1310 achievement score, 680 Xin Yuancheng, combat capability, 1030 achievement score, 890 Lin, combat capability, 120 achievement score. Zero and Lin's combat capability was evaluated based entirely on his running speed and the speed of his sword strikes during the final battle. Fortunately, Dioscoria Kankangensis had sharp eyes. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to see through Lin's combat capability. And Lin probably won't be able to make it onto the Immortal Rankings board. Should I help him increase his combat capability so that he can at least make it into the top 100? Otherwise, I'm afraid he'll suffer a severe setback if he falls too far behind. Dioscoria Kankangensis murmured to himself. Vice Principal Yu Hua glared at him. As a teacher, you can't mix in your personal feelings, understand? Dioscoria Kankangensis sighed. I know. I'm just feeling sorry for student Lin. Chapter 401. The battle in the forest of 1,000 peaks came to an end. Su Xiaolan rested for a while before starting her battle again. Without the top few opponents on the Immortal Rankings board, there were no more students who could stop her. Finally, she became the last person to remain in the forest of 1,000 peaks amidst a flurry of cheers. The free-for-all battle came to an end. Su Xiaolan took first place on the Immortal Rankings board, Lu Qianhuan second, Xian Yuancheng third, Zhu Qiubing fourth, and Su Qianyun fifth. Tang Shimin was eliminated too quickly and only managed to take 7th place. As for 6th place, it was taken by his classmate Duanlang. All the students suddenly discovered that the third-year students from Class 1 had already occupied half of the top spots on the Immortal Rankings board. And this was even after student Lin had pulled off a huge upset and failed to make it into the top 100 of the Immortal Rankings board. Setting aside the top 3, there were also Lu Zhan, Miao Tian, Zhong Yongyan, Sun Xinglian, Luo Ziping, Tang Man, and Xikong Xu. They were all third-year students of Class 1 of the Spirit Nurturing stage, and they had also performed well in the free-for-all battle. The students then counted the top 100 on the Immortal Rankings board and discovered that there were over 30 third-year students. The implications behind this number were simply too terrifying. We've been outshone by our juniors. Wah. We've been cultivating for 2 more years than them. They're not giving us AF** king chance. A 5th-year female student complained with an aggrieved expression. Why are the third-year students so strong? Are we really studying the same set of textbooks? A 4th-year student was perplexed. Do you guys think it's because of the end-of-year test against the ant tribe that they've changed a lot? A student speculated. That makes sense. The battle that time was particularly tragic, and many people died. Countless students and teachers were injured. Experiencing the trials of life and death often makes one's Tao heart more resolute and allows one to grow faster. Some students immediately chimed in upon hearing this. God and Halo is also protecting them. That must be one of the reasons. Ha! This junior brother's words do make some sense. The free-for-all battle drew to a close amidst the discussions of the students. However, Lin's battle was not over yet. After he opened his eyes, he discovered that a large group of people were looking at him with unfriendly gazes. Immediately, his body trembled and his heart sank. Lu Qianhuan, Xianyuan Cheng, Su Qianyin, Su Xiaolan, and Tang Shimin all wore mysterious expressions on their faces. Tang Shimin chuckled. What an earth-shattering scheme. Even I've been sucked into it. And Lin blinked before glaring at Lu Qianhuan. He almost yelled the word traitor out loud. Lu Qianhuan stuck out her tongue cheekily with a mischievous expression on her face. Who told you to blast me with your nuclear fist? You didn't tell me you were going to do that. You really scared me to death. After that, Tang Shimin came to complain to me, so I didn't want to take the blame for you anymore. Don't blame me for being a heartless person. I'm only an accomplice, not the main culprit. Also, I'm not done with you blowing me up with a nuclear bomb. She glared viciously at Lin as she spoke, and Lin's mouth gaped open. He didn't think that Lu Qianhuan would make a false accusation at a time like this. He turned his pleading gaze toward Xianyuan Cheng. Xianyuan Cheng heaved a forlorn sigh. And Lin, if you want Su Xiaolan to become #1 on the Immortal Rankings board, you can talk to us and find a better method. I don't approve of using the same method. Also, I'm sure that Su Xiaolan won't be happy if she becomes #1 on the Immortal Rankings board through this method. And Lin turned to Su Xiaolan to find that she was glaring at him with a frosty expression. It was clear that Su Xiaolan was the angriest among all of them. She didn't say anything. She merely stared coldly at Lin, causing Lin to feel immense pressure. That's right, Su Xiaolan is so powerful. She can become #1 on the Immortal Rankings board just by relying on her own abilities. Classmate Lin, what you're doing is unnecessary. Su Qianyin also chided him in a mellow voice. She had a simple plan in mind. If she could make Su Xiaolan the #1 on the Immortal Rankings board, then she wouldn't be so humiliated when she lost to Su Xiaolan. Do you have anything else to say? Su Xiaolan's cold voice sounded. She looked at the man on the ground with the majesty of a queen. What else could Lin say? He couldn't betray that shameless system, so he could only offer a sincere apology. Lu Qianhuan, I'll play games with you for 2 days, he offered with a serious expression. Huh. All right, no problem. We'll forget about this. Excitement flashed through her purple eyes. She was clearly very satisfied with this apology. Su Qianyin, I, Sword Immortal Lin, will personally train you in the way of the sword for 2 days. And Lin continued, Classmate Lin, you didn't do anything wrong to me. However, it's a rare opportunity to train me in the way of the sword, so I'll accept. Su Qianyin was ecstatic upon hearing this, and a blush appeared on her face, and Lin was very satisfied. Su Xian's slip of paper had finally come in handy. Su Xiaolan's expression turned even colder, and Lin turned toward Tang Shimin. Senior student Tang, I'll give you 50,000 spirit stones. Tang Shimin's chest constricted. Classmate Lin, are you trying to get rid of a beggar? Am I such a shallow person? 100,000 spirit stones, and Lin replied with a serious expression. That's more like it. A wide smile appeared on Tang Shimin's face. And Lin, everyone. And Lin then turned his gaze toward Xianyuan Cheng. Looking at this handsome, rich, and flawless man who didn't lack anything, he couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. Big Brother Cheng, We're such close friends. Xianyuan Cheng smiled warmly. There's no need for apologies. Seeing as you've admitted your mistakes, I'll naturally choose to forgive you. And Lin was extremely touched, and tears welled up in his eyes. He didn't know what to say as he looked at this man who had forgiven and forgiven him. See, what is true love? This is true love. And Lin finally turned his gaze toward Su Xiaolan, and he swallowed nervously. Even though he had successfully helped Su Xiaolan clinch the #1 spot on the Immortal Rankings board, he knew that Su Xiaolan was the angriest among all of them. There was no need to ask why. Just the fact that he had made Su Xiaolan cry in the forest of 1,000 peaks was enough to prove everything. He had never encountered a situation like this before, and he thought about it for a moment before pulling out the last mooncake from his storage ring. The fragrance of osmanthus wafted through the air as soon as the mooncake appeared. Xiaolan, I was wrong. Please forgive me. This is the last mooncake from Chang. This mooncake represents my heart. Please accept it. He handed the mooncake to Su Xiaolan as he spoke. Tang Shimin's eyes widened in astonishment. Su Qianyun cocked her head to the side with a calm expression. She was very curious about what was so special about this mooncake. Xianyuan Cheng also smiled and didn't say anything, as if he were enjoying a good show. As for Lu Qianhuan, she felt like her heart had shattered into pieces. She recalled how Lin had told her that there was only one mooncake, and that they could split it in half. She wanted nothing more than to pounce on Lin and bite him to death. Chapter 402. And Lin passed the mooncake to Su Xiaolan in an extremely sincere manner, and his sincerity was practically written all over his face. Su Xiaolan's expression softened slightly, but she still gently pushed the mooncake away. You've already given me a mooncake once, so I don't want it anymore. I still have something to do, so I'll be taking my leave now. You guys chat. Su Xiaolan turned to leave as she spoke, and Lin held the mooncake in his hand, and his heart felt empty as a sense of grievance welled up in his heart. Tang Shimin swallowed involuntarily as he looked at the mooncake in Lin's hand. If he had known this would happen, he would have refused Lin's spirit stone apology. Perhaps he would have been able to get a mooncake from Chang'e, and Lin's interest was completely drained, and he bade farewell to his friends before flying back to his residence on his brick. In the air, he looked at the system that he hated so much that he gritted his teeth. He saw that the column for special missions had already displayed a notification that the mission had been completed. Congratulations, host, for completing the mission. Keep a low profile. I'll help you become an immortal. You now have one chance at the lottery. You have the following rewards: Frowny Face Spirit Tool, 50, Immortal Tool, 10, Unique Weapon, 1, Divine Tool, 3. And Lin finally stopped cursing in his heart as he looked at the system description. There were 100 magic tools from the lottery last time, but there were only 3 divine tools now. This meant that the quality of the items from the lottery most likely had something to do with his cultivation base. Now that he was at the soul formation stage, magic tools had also been removed from the system. Furthermore, the number of these items was fixed, as the system only had 2 unique weapons in the past. Ever since he obtained the black brick, the number of unique weapons had been reduced to 1. But that didn't matter. He had no interest in unique weapons anyway. His focus had always been on the divine tools, and Lin's eyes burned with a scorching light. He had heard that divine tools were all legendary weapons that had the ability to pierce through heaven and earth. Who would have thought that the system would give him a chance to obtain such a weapon? He swallowed and began to select the items in his mind. At this moment, the system also began to emit a dazzling light. Dingling! Congratulations, you've won the grand prize! And Lin's body trembled upon hearing this, and his breathing accelerated to the point where he was about to suffocate. I've won a big prize. Do you hear me? I've hit the jackpot. This is definitely a godly weapon. I am invincible, ha 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 ha. He looked at the system, only to see golden words appearing in the system. Congratulations. You have obtained a special weapon, chaotic frying pan. This wok is suitable for baking, roasting, steaming, roasting, and stir-frying. It has the effect of enhancing the taste. There's no oil smoke, and it does not stick to the wok. It is the best wok in the world. The workmanship of this pot was exquisite. It had a perfect circular outline, and it had the most comfortable color. It was pleasing to the eye and made people happy. It was the most exquisite pot in the world. Hua! A pitch-black frying pan with a shiny golden exterior appeared in Lin's hand. The feel of the handle was very good, and its appearance was indeed pleasing to the eye. It was very good-looking, far better than the black brick, and Lin's entire body trembled, and a mouthful of blood welled up in his chest. Specially made weapon? And you're telling me this wok is a weapon? Weapons were used in battle. How the F***CK was this wok supposed to be used in battle? Even if the enemy could be placed on it, roasted, steamed, roasted, and fried, the size of the wok was not big enough. F***CK. And Lin almost blacked out with rage, and he almost threw the frying pan away. This system was definitely doing this on purpose. Unscrupulous system, give me back my immortal tool. Give me back my divine tool. And Lin angrily returned to his room. Even swallowing a calming pill did nothing to him. This system was getting more and more outrageous. This lucky draw was definitely rigged behind the scenes. He had risked becoming a eunuch and painstakingly completed the mission. But all he got was a frying pan? How could the system be so shameless as to pull such a stunt? F***CK. This F***King frying pan. Why am I working so hard? Even Celestial Maiden Shaolon is giving up on me. But all I get in return is a stupid frying pan like you. A series of crackling sounds erupted from the kitchen, as well as in Lin's enraged roar. Xiao Cho was perplexed. Why is Big Brother and throwing a tantrum at a frying pan? Dabai was lying lazily on a straw mat. He opened his half-closed eyes upon hearing Lin's question. Big Brother and was probably dumped by Su Xiaolan and had nowhere to vent his anger. So he decided to throw the frying pan away. Xiao Cho didn't understand what Lin was trying to say, so he nodded in understanding. Delicious food. Baby loves it. Eat it all and don't waste anything. Food is delicious. Xiao Hong swayed its bright red head from side to side as it sang a nursery rhyme while photosynthesizing. Big Brother and just went through a tough battle and came back covered in blood. Shouldn't he rest and recuperate first? Xiao Cho was still a little concerned. Dabai yawned. Don't worry. Big Brother and is even more tenacious than a cockroach. These injuries will definitely not be a problem. Dabai closed his eyes and went back to sleep as he spoke. The sound of someone cooking suddenly erupted from the kitchen. F***CK. I finally got a reward. I'm not going to give up if I don't use it at least once. I hope this stupid frying pan can endure my divine flames. And Lin's enraged roar sounded from the kitchen. It's over. Big Brother and really has gone crazy. He's fighting with a frying pan. Xiao Chao's bright eyes were filled with sympathy, but he didn't know how to console Lin. Before he knew it, the rich aroma of eggs wafted from the kitchen. Xiao Cho was rooted to the spot. Dabai suddenly came to his senses, and Xiao Hong stopped singing. This smell, it smelled so good. My God, I only knew that Big Brother and's barbecue was pretty good. But why does his cooking smell so good too? Woof! Dabai exclaimed. Who would have thought that there would be food in this world that could make my heart thump with excitement while I'm photosynthesizing? Xiao Hong said in her sweet voice. Xiao Cho didn't say anything as he charged into the kitchen. Dabai let loose a cry of surprise upon seeing this. Don't even think about stealing food from me, little brother 3. I'm your big brother Bai, so I'll go first. According to seniority, I should go first. Xiao Hong transformed into a young woman in a red dress and charged into the kitchen. Upon entering the kitchen, all of the beast pets were greeted by the sight of a plate of golden food that had just been cooked. And Lin looked at the food on the plate with a spatula in his hand and fell into a long silence. Dubai took a deep breath and pointed at the food. "Big brother, and what is this?" And Lin replied indifferently, "Egg fried rice." "Impossible!" Dubai, Xiao Chou, and Xiao Hong yelled in unison. "How could egg fried rice have such a golden color? How could egg fried rice exude such an alluring aroma?" Believe it or not, this is egg fried rice. It's cooked using the normal eggs and rice found in the school cafeteria, and Lin continued. Xiao Hong pulled out a spoon and scooped up a spoonful of egg fried rice before taking a bite. "Oh, this taste! My God!" Xiao Hong's body turned limp as an indescribable blush appeared on her face. It's my turn, woof." Dubai also excitedly pulled out a spoon and took a bite, upon which he immediately faltered. His eyes then glowed as he opened his mouth and bit down on the plate. He was going to swallow both the plate and the egg fried rice at the same time. Slap! Xiao Chou sent Dubai flying with a slap. He also pulled out a spoon and took a bite, upon which he stood rooted to the spot as if he had been struck by lightning. "This taste is even more blissful than Mommy's." Tears welled up in Xiao Chow's light bulb-like eyes. And Lin had already taken a bite of the egg fried rice, so he knew why all of the beast pets were behaving this way. This was all because this egg fried rice was unbelievably delicious. He looked at the frying pan and fell into silence. After a long while, he finally said, "As expected, what's the point of cultivating? I'll just be a chef from now on." Chapter 403. And Lin looked at the egg fried rice on the plate. His 3 pet beasts were already fighting over this dish. He knew that with his cooking skills, there was no way he could cook such delicious egg fried rice. Everything was because of the frying pan in his hand. The best frying pan in the world. The effect of enhancing the taste was terrifying. And Lin saw a bright future in front of him, and that was to become a gourmet supplier for all the worlds in the universe. He could open a unique shop with expensive prices. A bowl of egg fried rice with soup cost 998 spirit stones, and he didn't accept pre-orders. He could only line up on the spot and let the customers wash their own plates after eating. As he thought about it, saliva dripped from the corner of his mouth. The boss was not crazy. He would become the first saint-grade immortal chef on this continent with his delicious food. From then on, he would own countless spirit stones and become the richest in the world. He would marry by Xianmei and reach the pinnacle of his life. "Big brother in, make us another plate of egg fried rice." "Woof!" Dubai ran up to him with a swollen face. Woof Woof's big eyes were filled with tears, making him look especially adorable. "Yeah, 1 plate isn't enough for the 3 of us. Make us 2 more plates, big brother, and..." Dubai's claw marks could still be seen on Xiao Chow's face, and his eyes also widened in shock as he put on a horrifying expression. "Master, make us 3 more plates of egg fried rice. That way we won't fight." Xiao Hong held onto Lin's hand with a fawning smile on her face. Her smile was extremely seductive, and Lin was also in a state of excitement. He immediately agreed to the pet beast's request and cooked 4 plates of egg fried rice. Clang, 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 it's done! As soon as the 4 plates of egg fried rice were done, the pet beasts immediately swarmed over. A few seconds later, "Tui, tui, tui. What the F***ck is this? Am I eating dog food? No, it's *T. Woof!" Dubai roared in disbelief. "I will never admit that this is egg fried rice." The clown took a bite and looked at Lin with a burning gaze. "Master, are you hiding something? If you don't want to be fired by us, just say so." Little Red looked at Lin with a wronged expression, and Lin was taken aback by the reaction of his pet beasts. He had a bad feeling about this. He scooped up the egg fried rice on the plate and took a bite. Ugh, so disgusting. He spat out the egg fried rice in his mouth. Compared to the first plate of egg fried rice he cooked, This was simply a pile of golden shit. Just from the taste alone, it wasn't that exaggerated. It was just that there was no harm without comparison. After the first plate of egg fried rice, these 4 plates were really unpalatable, and Lynn came to a realization. This was because the taste was ordinary egg fried rice, not the egg fried rice that was enhanced by the frying pan. Rumble. It was as if he had been struck by lightning. He stood rooted to the ground and lost all faith. My dream of being the supplier of gourmet delicacies in the universe has been shattered. My ability is gone. I've lost the ability to conquer the world. And Lynn looked at the frying pan in his hand and suddenly burst into laughter. The most despairing thing was to first lift him up to heaven, and then let him fall to hell. Stinky pan, how dare you bully me? I'm going to kill you. Bang bang, clap clap, dong dong, and Lynn began to throw the frying pan in a frenzy. Big brotherin', so it's all because of the frying pan? I'll help you too, woof. Dabai pounced toward the frying pan in a fit of rage. I can tolerate this, but I can't tolerate this monkey. The clown picked up a metal rod and smashed it toward the frying pan. Let the sun cleanse this evil and scrupulous frying pan. Give me back my egg fried rice. Little Red raised both of her hands high into the air as golden rays of light bombarded the sinful frying pan. Bang bang, clap clap, dang dang, dong dong. After a series of brutal attacks, 1 human and 3 pet beasts lay panting heavily on the ground. The frying pan was indeed the best frying pan in the world. It was completely unscathed in the face of so many attacks. Big Brother and the frying pan should be obedient now. Why don't you try another plate of egg fried rice? Woof! Dabai looked at the frying pan on the ground with anticipation in his eyes, and Lynn nodded. All right, I'll give it a try. He also felt like the frying pan had a spirit of its own. The frying pan was probably trying to prank him, so it should be obedient after a beating. Clang, 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 whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A plate of egg fried rice was ready. Here, have a taste. And Lynn handed over the egg fried rice. Dabai, Little Red, and the clown eagerly dug in. And then bang bang, clap clap, dang dang, dong dong, bang bang, clap clap, dang dang, dong dong. Dabai, Little Red, and the clown no longer believed in egg fried rice as they vented their anger on the frying pan again. And Lynn lay on his bed with a look of despair on his face as he slowly closed his eyes. The free-for-all battle had come to an end, and he was extremely tired. The joy and excitement from winning the magic treasure lottery had already faded. He had yet to fully recover from his injuries, and didn't know how to cheer up Su Xiaolan. This was all the system's fault. The next day, and Lin stretched his body and got out of bed. He used the frying pan to stir-fry a plate of beef and eggplant. The beef and eggplant were done, and the fragrance wafted through the air. His body trembled as he smelled the fragrance, and a thought surfaced in his mind. He picked up a mouthful with his chopsticks and bit down. Ah, this smell. I feel like I'm looking at an angel. I feel like I'm looking at a snowy mountain under the starry night sky. The enchanting smell of roasted beef emanating from a bonfire. And Lin exclaimed as his chopsticks moved like lightning, instantly finishing the entire plate of beef and eggplant. He seemed to have understood something and decided to do another experiment. He stir-fried a second plate of beef and eggplant, which tasted like sh*t. He stir-fried another plate of egg-fried rice, which tasted like sh*t. He tried stir-fried a plate of pork, which tasted like sh*t. A door to a whole new world seemed to have opened up before him. I get it. This frying pan doesn't enhance the taste of every new dish I stir-fry. Instead, I can only enhance the taste of the dish once a day. And Lin laughed heartily as he began to feel relieved. He couldn't become a gourmet supplier, but that didn't matter. At the very least, he had proven that the frying pan still had its uses. His efforts in the free-for-all battle were not in vain. As for the second plate of beef and eggplant, egg-fried rice, and pork, he fed them all to Dabai. Dabai was still unable to forget the plate of egg-fried rice from the day before, and he was on the verge of developing anorexia as he ate the dishes cooked by Lin. Debai's expression was bitter as he ate the dishes cooked by Lin, and Lin's eyes lit up. At this moment, he had already thought of a way to cheer up Su Xiaolan. That's right, he had to use the frying pan. He had to use the delicious dishes to impress her. Su Xiaolan, just you wait and see how I, the god of cookery, and Lin, will conquer your stomach tomorrow. Chapter 404. It was a brand new day, and Lin set off early to select his ingredients. The chicken meat was chosen from the eastern Spirit Mountains fire-fowl chicken, while the onions and ginger were taken from the high-quality spiritual plants in the spiritual fields. Even the salt, oil, soy sauce, vinegar, and other seasonings were specially provided by the heavenly quartz god of cooking. On top of that, there was a bottle of 1982 Coke. That's right, he was going to make the world's #1 Coke chicken today. And Lin used the chaotic frying pan and the great holy flame as the heat source before stir-frying and simmering. He was extremely focused, as if he were cooking something extremely sacred. The alluring aroma finally attracted the attention of his 3 beast pets, who surrounded him with envious eyes. But Lin kicked them aside without any hesitation. Piss off. This is for Xiaolan. And Lin snapped. Wah. Big brother is Xiaolan more important than me in your heart? Woof. Debai wailed. Yes. And Lin replied with a firm expression. Debai, Master, you're forcing me to go on a hunger strike. Lil Red had a tearful expression on her face. Her appearance was extremely moving and adorable, and Lin continued to focus on cooking. There's nothing wrong with you going on a hunger strike. You just need to photosynthesize. Big brother I want to make a reservation for tomorrow. Xiao Chao's eyes lit up. If Xiaolan doesn't ask me to cook tomorrow, I can consider it. And Lin nodded. Debai shuddered as he realized that he had missed out on this opportunity. However, his eyes suddenly lit up again. Big brother after Su Xiaolan eats the chicken, doesn't she still have the bones left? Don't throw the bones away, leave them for me. Woof. And Lin, half an hour later. And Lin carefully covered the dish with a lid before making his way toward the attic. He was going to give Su Xiaolan a big surprise and completely resolve the estrangement between the two of them. Dong, dong, dong. A woman opened the door, and when she saw the man holding a plate of food, a look of surprise appeared on her pretty face. Hi, Celestial Maiden Lon Lon, have you eaten? I have. And Lin wiped his sweat. Damn, the script wasn't right. It's not dinner time yet, is it? What about my surprise? What about my cola chicken? How about another meal? And Lin looked at Su Xiaolan and said, pitifully. Su Xiaolan stared at the plate in Lin's hand, blinked her bright eyes, and asked, Did you make this yourself? Yes, don't worry. It's very delicious. And Lin nodded. Su Xiaolan's expression softened a little. She stepped aside and said, Then come in and talk. All right. And Lin finally returned to Su Xiaolan's house. This was a great step forward. Celestial Maiden Lon Lon, I'm not bragging, but my cooking skills have improved recently. In the entire kingdom of the 9 states, there's probably no one who can match my cooking skills. Even those 3 arrogant beast pets fight over the food I make every day. And Lin couldn't hold back his emotions and began to brag as soon as he entered the house. Su Xiaolan pursed her lips. Best in the kingdom of the 9 states? You dare to use such a title, and you're still saying you're not bragging? If you continue to be so shameless, I'll have to ask you to leave right now. Don't do that, you'll know once you try it. I guarantee that you'll be unable to extricate yourself from it. And Lin sat down and didn't plan to leave. He placed the dish in the middle of the table and spoke with a radiant expression. Su Xiaolan sneered. And Lin wasn't angry. Instead, he said in a serious tone, You don't believe me? How about we make a bet? Su Xiaolan raised an eyebrow. Bet on what? Let's bet on whether or not you'll be unable to resist eating the entire dish after taking a bite of my dish. If you can resist, then I lose. If you can't resist eating the entire dish, then I win. And Lin said with a serious expression. Su Xiaolan was curious. What about the stakes? If I lose, then I'll agree to any one of your conditions. If I win, then you'll forgive me for what I did during the free-for-all battle. How about that? And Lin looked at Su Xiaolan. Su Xiaolan thought about it for a moment. How could she possibly lose? She wasn't someone who valued food as much as her life, so she nodded. All right, the bet is set. And Lin smiled as he placed his hand on the lid of the dish. Now, it's time to witness a miracle. As soon as the lid was lifted, a piercing light suddenly erupted. A crisp cry erupted within the room, and the projection of a red phoenix soared into the sky from the dish. And Lin and Su Xiaolan were both dumbstruck. Holy F***CK! What the F***CK is going on? A phenomenon from the heavens? A fire chicken being reborn as a phoenix? There were no special effects added. Did it have to be so exaggerated? At the same time, an extremely alluring aroma instantly permeated the entire room. The colorful cola chicken appeared in front of the two of them, whetting their appetites. And Lin was the first to come to his senses. He tried his best to compose himself with a smile. The most important thing is the taste. Sorry for the insignificant tricks. Su Xiaolan came to her senses and looked at the cola chicken in front of her. She then looked at Lin, who wore a calm expression on his face, and a feeling welled up in her heart. He was clearly flexing, but he was also very bad *SS come have a taste. I guarantee you won't be able to stop eating. And Lin rested his hands on the table with an expectant expression. Su Xiaolan nodded. She picked up her chopsticks and picked up a piece of brightly colored chicken before placing it in her mouth. In the instant that she chewed, an extremely delicious flavor exploded in her mouth. She felt as if her soul had left her body, and her entire body felt extremely comfortable. Delicious! This was Su Xiaolan's first impression. She picked up a second piece of chicken as if she were unable to control herself. The fried chicken was delicious. This was Su Xiaolan's second impression. Su Xiaolan was astonished. She exclaimed in her heart as she ate, "My God, how could there be such delicious food in this world?" And Lin looked at Su Xiaolan, who was incessantly eating, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. The aroma filled the room. This cola chicken was extremely alluring. If it weren't for the fact that he hoped that Su Xiaolan would forgive him, he would have already pounced on it and devoured it. This was the first time that Su Xiaolan's table manners were so unfairy-like. Her mouth was full of oil, and her white and tender cheeks were bulging as she chewed continuously. She looked at Lin with her bright eyes and exclaimed, "Don't tell me you caught a phoenix and cooked it for me? How could cola chicken taste like this?" And Lin rolled his eyes. "Have you ever seen such a small phoenix?" Su Xiaolan laughed awkwardly and continued to eat. Then, she suddenly raised her head to look at Lin. After thinking for a moment, she moved the plate toward Lin and said, "Let's eat together." And Lin was overjoyed when he heard this. He had long wanted to eat this tempting aroma, but he didn't expect that Su Xiaolan would be so considerate. He immediately picked up his chopsticks. Suddenly, he stopped his hands. "That was close. Luckily I'm quick-witted. I almost fell for your trick." And Lin looked at Su Xiaolan and said proudly, "The bet is that you have to finish this dish. If I eat it, doesn't that mean that you haven't finished this dish? Then wouldn't I lose? Ha, you want to trick me? You're still 10,000 years too early." Su Xiaolan looked at Lin with a strange expression. In the end, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Hey, do you have to be so funny? I told you to eat, so you eat." Her smile was like a peach blossom spring breeze, or like the warm sun in winter, making people feel warm and satisfied. And Lin blinked his eyes. "Then the bet. Are you stupid? I told you to eat because I forgave you. Otherwise, how could I bear to share such a delicious phoenix chicken with you? Ah, I knew that Fairy Lon Lon is the best. The name you gave this dish is also very nice. Phoenix chicken is 100 times nicer than cola chicken. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and eat. Otherwise, I'll finish it. Okay, then I won't be polite. Just like that, the two of them finally got rid of all the estrangement because of a chicken and became friends again. Chapter 405. After resolving his conflict with Su Xiaolan, and Lin was in a good mood. He hummed a tune as he walked back to his residence. Xiao, Red, Dabai, and Xiao Cho all turned to look at Lin with nervous expressions. Brother En, did you take him down? Although Dabai saw that Lin had returned singing and seemed to be in a good mood, only the heavens knew if he was one of those pitiful people who had gone mad from the stimulation, so he decided to ask. And Lin raised his fist with a smile. Since I'm doing it myself, of course it's a piece of cake. At this, excited cheers came from the attic. The three pet beasts were so excited that they cried. They knew that they would be able to eat delicious frying pan food tomorrow. The next day, Lin continued to cook egg fried rice with a frying pan. This time he seemed to have learned his lesson and filled the pan with eggs and rice, maximizing the surface area of the pan. This meal made Xiao Cho, Dabai, and Xiao Red cry. It was so F***king delicious. So F***king satisfying. And Lin also ate very seriously. He felt that the taste was slightly worse than the first time, but it was still the best of the best. On the third day, Lin steamed buns with a frying pan, 100 steamers at a time. When he placed the pan at the door to steam the buns, the steamers were stacked higher than the attic, scaring the students who passed by. Su Xiaolan was laughing so hard that she was trembling. This was the first time she had seen someone steam buns like this. It was truly a wonder. Xianyuancheng was also puzzled. He only thought that Lin's appetite was too good. Meanwhile, Su Qianyan stared blankly at the 100 steamers of buns. She smacked her lips and told Lin that quality was more important than quantity when it came to delicious food. In response to everyone's confusion and mockery, Lin simply gave them a what-do-you-know look. The day the buns were cooked would be the day his culinary skills would shake the school. 2 hours later, the steamed buns were ready. He couldn't wait to try one first. The taste was much worse than the egg fried rice, but it was still a very delicious bun. He couldn't stop eating, and Lin began to understand the purpose of the frying pan. It could only enhance the taste once a day, and the total amount of flavor enhancement was roughly constant. In other words, if he steamed 10 steamers of buns, the flavor enhancement would be 10 times that of 100 steamers. However, it did mean that 10 steamers of stuffed buns were 10 times more delicious than 100 steamers of stuffed buns. This was because there was a basic value of taste. For example, 10 plus 10 and 10 plus 100 would only have a difference of 5 times in terms of taste. For example, if you cooked excrement and the basic taste was too bad, no matter how much you enhanced it, it wouldn't taste good. There was no possibility of the excrement being really fragrant. However, if it was an extremely delicious ingredient, it could be combined with the frying pan to create a peerless delicacy. And Lin stared at the frying pan with an uncontrollable smile on his face. A vast vision of the future was taking shape. I'm definitely going to be the king of food. After the steamed buns were cooked, Lin gave one steamer to Su Xiaolan. Su Xiaolan ate the steamed buns in silence. Finally, she said, "Didn't you steam 100 steamers? Give me another 4 steamers." And Lin was naturally more than happy to oblige. He eagerly gave another 4 steamers to Su Xiaolan and laughed heartily. Who was the one who said I was a weirdo when it came to steaming buns? Now you know how amazing I am, right? Su Xiaolan ignored Lin and continued to eat her steamed buns. Immediately afterward, he gave another steamer of stuffed buns to Xianyuancheng. After eating, Xianyuancheng finally understood why Lin wanted to steam 100 steamers of stuffed buns. This wasn't a matter of appetite. He was willing to eat 100 steamers of such delicious stuffed buns. After that, Lin gave another steamer of stuffed buns to Su Qianyan. Su Qianyan had never eaten such delicious stuffed buns before and almost choked on them. She then shyly asked for another 2 steamers of stuffed buns and praised Lin for being a genius. She even said that she wanted to learn how to make stuffed buns from Lin, and Lin naturally refused her request. His secret technique was not to be taught to outsiders. After giving Su Qianyin 2 steamers of stuffed buns, he left. He loved to see these people being conquered by the stuffed buns. It felt so good. And Lin was a little unsatisfied and continued to carry the steamed buns. Zhong Yongyan, I have a stuffed bun for you. Big brotherin, you came all the way to my house just to give me stuffed buns? Hee hee, you're looking down on stuffed buns? Try some first. This flavor, it's so fragrant, oily but not greasy, crispy and delicious. Holy F asterisk CK. Idioms can't describe my feelings anymore. It's so F asterisk king delicious. Do you still dare to look down on stuffed buns? No, big brotherin, you really are a living chef god. Do you have more? Do I want more? No, goodbye. Amidst Zhong Yongyan's cries, and Lin waved his sleeves and left. After that, he went to Miao Tian's house. Miao Tian said that she had a small chest and needed more nutrition, so she forcefully asked for 2 more steamers of stuffed buns. After that, he went to Sun Xinglian's house. Sun Xinglian said that her chest was too big and that 1 steamer wasn't enough, so she asked for another one. After that, he went to Luo Zipping's house. Luo Zipping didn't have any good excuses, so he hugged onto Lin's thigh and begged Lin to give him another steamer. And Lin naturally wouldn't refuse such a simple request and gave him another steamer. And Lin was a little addicted to the feeling of giving stuffed buns, so he went to Lu Debao's house and gave him another steamer. Lu Debao was stunned after eating it, and he actually wanted to buy 10 steamers of stuffed buns at the price of 100 spirit stones per steamer. This sentence caused Lin to come to a sudden realization and found the path to riches. In order to express his gratitude, he sold 10 steamers of stuffed buns to Lu Debao at the price of 500 spirit stones per steamer. You're right, because... And Lin planned to sell the stuffed buns at a price of 1,000 spirit stones per steamer, and he gave Lu Debao a 50% discount. And Lin then went to Zhao Huayin's house to deliver the stuffed buns. Zhao Huayin sighed as he ate. He finally understood why Dabai wanted to become Lin's beast pet so much. If it were him, he would do the same. After that, the young sorceress forgot to play games and became addicted to eating stuffed buns. Senior Tang saw hope in life because of eating stuffed buns. She was inspired by eating stuffed buns. Immortal pills should be like stuffed buns. Not only did they have practical value, but they also had to pay attention to the texture and taste. This way, it would be able to stimulate people's love for immortal pills. And Lin then gave out stuffed buns to the other students. Each person was given one, so there were only 10 buns in each steamer. When those students still wanted to eat, and Lin would say that he would be selling stuffed buns the next day, and those who wanted to eat stuffed buns could buy them on site. Just like that, the situation slowly developed. Hey, did you hear? God and is going to sell stuffed buns at school. What? Selling stuffed buns? Did you hear that right? What does he want to do? He really is going to sell stuffed buns. I heard from an upper-class woman that his stuffed buns are super delicious. Really? Then I have to go try them. I don't have anything going on these days anyway. Do you know the location? I heard it's at the main entrance of the third-year dorms. Did you hear? Anlin Jr. brother is going to sell stuffed buns. My God! Ever since the free-for-all battle began, and Lin has been behaving very strangely, and now he's selling stuffed buns again. Do you think he's been struck dumb by divine lightning? How about we go check it out tomorrow and support his business? Anlin Jr. brother is so pitiful. Senior brother and Lin is going to sell stuffed buns, and he made them himself. I have to go try them. I'm going too. My idol, I have to go support him. Thus, news of Lin's stuffed buns began to spread like wildfire throughout the entire university, creating a massive stir. Most of the students were discussing this matter passionately. And Lin had been busy for an entire day before he finally returned to his dorm, panting heavily as he carried the stuffed buns with him. Dabai, Xiao Chou, and Xiao Hong were already eagerly awaiting Lin arrival, and all of them tried their best to act cute and spoiled. And Lin had never seen such an enthusiastic Xiao Hong, never seen such an obedient Dabai, never seen such an adorably ugly Xiao Chou. And all of this was thanks to his limited edition weapon, the frying pan. Over 30 steamers of stuffed buns that had yet to be delivered appeared in the dorm. The three beast pets, Anne and Lin, were immersed in a carnival of delicacies, and their cheers made the entire dorm tremble. A new day had begun, and Lin's Dabai ignored stuffed buns were officially on sale. Chapter 406. This was a special day for Xiaoxian United University. A piece of news had already spread throughout the entire university. The number one celebrity of the university, and Lin, soared immortal Dabai stuffed buns, was officially on sale. 100 steamers of stuffed buns were stacked high up in front of the third-year resting area, creating a very eye-catching sight. The sun was just beginning to rise, but there were already several hundred people gathered here to spectate. It had to be said that Lin's stuffed buns had been very effective in promoting the university, and all the students were very enthusiastic about them. Beneath the frying pan, the great holy flame was burning fiercely, and white steam rose up from the frying pan like a swimming dragon. The stuffed buns hadn't even been cooked yet, but the crowd was already engaged in heated discussions. In particular, they all drew a sharp intake of breath when they saw the price tag on the wooden board in front of the stuffed buns. Dabai ignored buns, 1,000 spirit stones per steamer. Holy F asterisk CK, classmate and Lin must be crazy poor. 1,000 spirit stones per steamer. 1,000 spirit stones is enough to buy a decent spirit pill. But these stuffed buns are also so expensive. Does he think we're all idiots with too much money? I told you classmate and Lin's brain was damaged by divine lightning during his tribulation transcendence. But you didn't believe me. Now you believe me, right? Haha. Let's just watch the show and see if any idiots with too much money will come to buy these stuffed buns. Senior and Lin is probably facing some financial difficulties, so he's indirectly asking us for donations, right? The crowd was in heated discussions, but most of them were either incomprehensible or mocking. And Lin was focused on controlling the fire, and he completely ignored the heated discussions. After all, his favorite thing to do was to slap these people in the face with stuffed buns. He was very confident about this, and he was sure that these spectators wouldn't be able to laugh in 2 hours. More and more people came, and before they knew it, there were already over 1,000 people gathered in front of the restaurant. Some of them were amused by the strange way in which the stuffed buns were steamed, while others were shocked by the astronomical price tag of 1,000 spirit stones. Senior and Lin, I don't care how your stuffed buns turn out. I'll definitely buy them. God and our faith. I'm going to buy Dabai ignored buns. 1,000 spirit stones is nothing. I'll just take it as one less white skin pill. The die-hard fans also arrived one after another, shouting loudly to show their support. Some rational people shook their heads and sighed. Even if there were rumors that Dubai's steamed buns were very delicious, they shouldn't have been worth 1,000 spirit stones per steamer. This was already far beyond the price of steamed buns. Amidst the increasingly heated discussion, and Lin began to look at the surrounding students. He pointed to the spot in front of him and shouted, "You're the one who's going to take the test. The buns are ready. Those who want to buy them, come here and line up." Most of the students couldn't help but burst into laughter upon hearing this. Did he really think that there were so many stupid and rich students? Did he really think that there would be people lining up to buy buns at such an exorbitant price? Could it be that he had lost his mind? But at this moment, a black shadow rushed over at lightning speed. They were so fast that the strong wind they brought with them even pushed back the students at the side. "I came here first. Don't cut in line. F asterisk CK, don't you have any shame? I clearly arrived first. Stop squeezing. You're going to squash me to death." Within a second, there were over 100 students who had formed a line out of nearly 1,000 students. All the other students were dumbstruck. What was going on? What were these people fighting over? Even some of the die-hard fans were confused. They had only planned to buy a steamer to show their support. But what was going on with these students who had lined up in a second and were even fighting over the buns? "Boss, give me 100 steamers of steamed buns." An extremely beautiful girl with short pink hair raised her hands high into the air as she yelled loudly, "F***CK! 100 steamers at once?" All the other students almost blacked out. Were they F***king giving them no way out? My God, has Goddess Lu gone crazy? That's 100,000 spirit stones. This doesn't make sense. This is most likely Goddess Lu cooperating with Senior and Lin to advertise. Do you advertise by selling your items to the same person all at once? Senior and Lin doesn't need to earn money. He doesn't need to attract other people to his products. And Lin rolled his eyes as he looked at Lu Qianhuan, who was at the very front of the line. Each person can only buy 2 steamers. His words instantly caused a stir in the crowd. Lu Qianhuan glared at Lin. "Then I want 2 steamers." "I also want 2 steamers." A male student behind her chimed in. "I also want 2 steamers," someone else yelled. "Boss, give me 3 steamers, and I'll give you 4,000 spirit stones," a female student yelled excitedly. And Lin pursed his lips. "I'm an honest man who sincerely wants to run a business. Even if you offer 10,000 spirit stones per steamer, I can only sell you 2 steamers." Everyone, just like that, a peculiar scene unfolded. Over 80% of the students in the queue chose to buy 2 steamers, and Lin decided to eat the last 2 steamers for himself and not sell them. Dubai ignored them, and all the buns were sold out in a mere 10 minutes. The dozens of students in the queue behind him wailed in remorse as they blamed themselves for not moving faster. The hundreds of spectating students were all dumbstruck. Could it be that they are hired? Have you ever seen an actor who would go line up to buy a bun from someone else for 200 spirit stones after failing to buy one? There were 10 buns in a steamer. 200 spirit stones per bun meant that 1 steamer of buns was 2,000 spirit stones. This was double the original price, and everyone was dumbstruck. A male student, who clearly didn't believe this scam, ran over to a student who had bought a steamer of buns. "Student, I want to buy one of your buns for 200 spirit stones." The student chuckled. "In your dreams." The male student was dazed for a moment before gritting his teeth. 300 spirit stones. "All right. Seeing as you've never eaten one before, I'll sell you one." The student glanced at the male student before finally agreeing to the deal. Just like that, the male student bought a bun for 300 spirit stones. The male student's companion laughed heartily. "Who would have thought that you would do something so stupid? Have you been infected by the aura of intellect? Ha ha ha." The male student caressed the soft and white bun. "I'm only trying to expose this scam. I'm only paying for the truth. You don't know **T. The male took a bite of the bun as he spoke. In that instant, he burst into tears. "Wow, I can't believe there are such amazing and delicious buns in this world. Why didn't I line up just now? I regret it," the male student cried as he ate, and his companion was completely dumbstruck. Similar scenes occurred one after another in the crowd, and Dubai's reputation for ignoring buns gradually spread. Especially those students who didn't believe the scam and had been ridiculing him in every possible way. They felt ashamed after eating the buns, but they also wanted to eat more. And Lin silently put away his frying pan and departed from the crowd, concealing his achievements and fame. The reason why he didn't sell a lot and instead limited the number of buns was for hunger marketing. Only then could his bun business continue in the long run. The next day, and Lin came to the resting area early in the morning to set up his stall. This time, there were over 1,000 students gathered here, and Lin didn't waste any time and placed the price tag in front of the 100 steamers of buns. Dubai ignored buns, 1,200 spirit stones per steamer. Limit 2 steamers per person. Instantly, the crowd erupted again. What an unscrupulous merchant. Yesterday, it was 1,000 spirit stones per steamer, but today it's 1,200 spirit stones. If this continues, won't it increase to 10,000 spirit stones per steamer? Boycott. This kind of practice must be boycotted. That's right. We're not buying any more today. This is too much. They're treating us like fools. Hee. I'm going to watch how Lin makes a fool of himself. In the face of the dissatisfaction of the students, Lin remained calm and collected as he continued to steam the buns. The buns are out. Everyone, line up in front of me. And Lin suddenly yelled. Boom! One figure after another pierced through the air, setting off gusts of wind. In the next second, a long line of over 200 people appeared. The surrounding students. Just like that, Lin only sold 95 steamers of buns that day, which took him 8 minutes to sell, setting a new record. As for the remaining 5 steamers, he was going to take them home to eat. In just 2 days, he had earned over 200,000 spirit stones. Earning money was that simple. Chapter 407. Lin stabilized the price of the stuffed buns at 1,200 spirit stones per steamer, mainly because this price was within the acceptable range for the disciples of the major sections. If he raised the price to 2,000 spirit stones per steamer, or even 5,000 spirit stones per steamer, he might be able to sell all 100 steamers in a day. However, this kind of sales would definitely not last long. Many people would stop buying after eating the stuffed buns. Many students would think that the stuffed buns were delicious, but it wasn't worth it to spend so much money on them. However, a price of 1,200 spirit stones was more than enough for the students of the Celestial Court to eat once a month. Rich people like Lu Qianhuan could even eat 2 steamers of steamed stuffed buns every day. Thus, for the past few days, all of his stuffed buns had been sold out within 10 minutes. Dubai's stuffed buns were truly renowned throughout the Celestial Court and Xiaoxian United University. Su Qian, let's go to the third-year resting area tomorrow and buy some stuffed buns ignored by Dubai. Huh, I don't like stuffed buns. And the second-year and third-year areas are too far away. Hee, what kind of university student are you if you haven't even eaten the stuffed buns ignored by Dubai? You're going to regret it if you don't eat one. Cut the crap. We'll go fight for a spot at 6 in the morning tomorrow. It'll be gone if we're late. After a few more days, the stuffed buns ignored by Dubai became the #1 delicacy in the Celestial Court, and the title of Chef God and also became popular. Chef God and maintained a net profit of 110,000 spirit stones per day, and he ate a few steamers of stuffed buns with his beast pets. As for the cost, even if he used the best ingredients from the United University, it would still cost around 1,000 spirit stones to make 100 steamers of stuffed buns. This was truly a huge profit. Frying pan, I love you to death. This was Lin's favorite line every day, and he didn't forget to kiss it. Whenever he had nothing better to do, he would bring out the evil slaying sword to chop up vegetables and meat. At the same time, he would teach little Xia to learn from Big Brother Frying Pan and how to be a virtuous housekeeper. He wanted her to be a sword that was useful to her master and a sword that shared her master's financial burden. The evil slaying sword didn't want to say anything. In fact, it wanted to hack someone. The days were very ordinary. When he had nothing to do, he would play games with Lu Qianhuan, teach Su Qianyun swordsmanship, and learn foreign languages. After fulfilling those 2 promises, he would focus on studying cooking. When Su Xiaolan saw that Lin was not in the mood to cultivate and was engrossed in cooking, she felt a headache coming on. Originally, she wanted to persuade Lin to turn over a new leaf. But when Lin came to her door with Dubai's dog doesn't care about me bag, she hesitated. Each of the 360 professions had its own master. If Lin achieved phenomenal success in cooking and became the #1 chef god in this world, perhaps that would be a good path for him. Yu sent a voice transmission to Enlin from the Moon Palace to express her gratitude again. She also told him that her fat-burning method had Wan Chang'e's approval, and that she would be staying at the Moon Palace to lose weight once a day. She also told him that she was going to prepare a big present for Enlin the next time they met. Enlin was also genuinely happy to hear about this. After chatting for a while longer, he closed the voice transmission talisman and once again immersed himself in his culinary studies. Time passed by slowly, and 20 days had passed in the blink of an eye. During these 20 days, Enlin had earned 2,300,000 spirit stones. There were close to 50,000 students, so even if only one of the 5 students bought a steamer, he would still be able to earn 12 million spirit stones. Furthermore, that was only a conservative estimate, and the actual number was definitely much higher than that. Within a year, Enlin would definitely be filthy rich. One morning, over 100 students arrived at the entrance of the third-year area as per usual, but they suddenly recalled that Enlin had told them the day before that the restaurant would be temporarily closed, and they all left with disappointed expressions. That's right, Enlin had something important to do today. He had to return to the Vermilion Bird sect with Su Xiaolan. As for his application for leave, he brought 20 steamers of stuffed buns to the principal's office, and Vice Principal Yu Hua gladly approved his application. It was a smooth and convenient process. Xiao Hong, Xiao Chou, and Dubai couldn't leave Enlin's side, and they shamelessly followed behind him. Wherever Enlin went, they followed. Enlin's expression was filled with melancholy. He didn't think that he would be able to win over the hearts of his 3 beast pets with his frying pan. On this day, after applying for leave, Enlin, Su Xiaolan, and their 3 beast pets teleported to the capital city of the Baihua state via the school's teleportation spell formation before flying toward the Vermilion Bird sect. Xiaolan, what are you doing back at the sect? Enlin turned to Su Xiaolan, who was wearing a jade barley ink garment with a curious expression on his face. My true dragon and phoenix intents are both perfected, so I'm going back to the sect to attempt to progress to the half-step soul formation stage on the Enlightenment Fire God Rock, Su Xiaolan replied with a faint smile. And Lin's eyes lit up upon hearing this. My God, you're only telling me this now? Do you still see me as a friend? Su Xiaolan pursed her lips. I'm only trying to awaken my domain, so there's no guarantee that I'll succeed. If you hadn't asked me about this, I wouldn't have told you. It would be very embarrassing if I failed. And Lin was ecstatic. You'll definitely succeed. When the time comes, you'll be the person with the highest cultivation base in our class aside from me. The corners of Su Xiaolan's lips curled up slightly as a vibrant smile appeared on her face. She looked into the distance and didn't reply to Enlin's words. Instead, she thought to herself, if I don't hurry up, the distance between us will only grow further and further. She was a proud person and didn't want to look up to the man beside her for the rest of her life. She wanted to be able to fly to the same height as the man beside her and see the same scenery. She wanted to even be able to help him. By the way, I'll help you get in through the back door. You don't have to hold a position in the Vermilion Bird sect, but you still have to be an in-name disciple of the Vermilion Bird sect. Without this status, the Holy Vermilion Flame won't acknowledge you, Su Xiaolan suddenly said. We'll do as you say. And Lin trusted Su Xiaolan very much, and he immediately nodded. Give me 20 steamers of stuffed buns, Su Xiaolan said. I understand. And Lin nodded with a smile as he brought out 20 steamers of stuffed buns from his storage ring and handed them to Su Xiaolan. He had steamed 100 steamers of stuffed buns today, but he didn't sell them, so he planned to keep them for himself. Who would have thought that they would come in handy again? After a few hours, a massive tree trunk appeared before everyone's eyes. This tree towered over 10,000 meters into the clouds, and its canopy obscured the entire sky like a floating continent. Soon, Enlin and the others arrived at the gate of the sect. There was a woman in a purple dress there, and she waved at them with a dainty smile. Welcome back to the Vermilion Bird sect, groom. Where's your betrothal gift? Chapter 408. A blush appeared on Su Xiaolan's face upon hearing this. Sister Lan Yan, what are you talking about? Are you itching for a beating? Sister Xiaolan wants to bully me for a man. Sigh, our relationship has really strayed too far. Lan Yan shook her head with an aggrieved expression, and Lin descended from the sky on Dabai's back and pulled out a steamer of stuffed buns from his storage ring before tossing them to Lan Yan. Lan Yan instinctively caught the steamer of stuffed buns before turning to Lin with a perplexed expression. What are you doing? Didn't you say I didn't bring a betrothal gift? This is my betrothal gift, and Lin replied. Lan Yan was dumbstruck for a few seconds before bursting into laughter. Ha ha ha. Stuffed buns as a betrothal gift? I didn't think you'd be so funny. And Lin, ha ha ha. She had a low threshold for laughter to begin with, and now that she saw Lin using stuffed buns as a betrothal gift, she couldn't help but burst into laughter. Can you eat one first before you laugh? And Lin asked with a resigned expression. All right. Then I won't let down the groom's good intentions. Lan Yan repressed the urge to laugh as she removed the lid and took a bite of the soft and fragrant stuffed bun. The taste of the bun exploded forth. Lan Yan was completely dumbstruck, and she continued to take a few more bites. My God, I'm eating stuffed buns? She exclaimed in disbelief. They're stuffed buns. The ingredients are the flour, beef, pork, and spirit vegetables from the Celestial Court, and Lin confirmed. You made this? Lan Yan had only just finished her first stuffed bun before picking up a second one. She completely disregarded the fact that her mouth was stuffed to the brim as she asked in a slurred voice, and Lin chuckled. Of course. This is called Dabai Ignores Stuffed Buns, and it's very famous in the Celestial Court. Lan Yan looked at Dabai upon hearing this name, and she suddenly burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. She was already eating her bun when she suddenly burst into laughter. Her face turned green and her eyes widened. Rolling her eyes, Su Xiaolan walked over and patted Lan Yan's back. I told you not to laugh when you're eating, but you didn't listen. You choked again, didn't you? And Lin? Lan Yan, who had finally calmed down, continued to laugh. Ha ha ha. But the name Dabai Ignores Buns is too funny. Speaking of which, is this Dabai an idiot? How could he ignore such delicious buns? Ha ha ha. Uffed. This time, not to mention Lan Yan, even Lin and Su Xiaolan burst into laughter. Dabai's eyes widened. Big brother in, she's bullying dogs. Woof. And Lin stroked the dog's head and rewarded a steamer of Dabai Ignores Buns to Dabai to appease its rage. Lan Yan and Su Xiaolan chatted and laughed as they made their way toward the sect, while Lin followed behind them on Dabai's back. Along the way, many sect disciples turned to look at them. Most of them were looking at the two beauties, but some of them were saying that Lin looked a little familiar, and that dog was even more so. In the end, they came to a sudden realization when they saw the adorably ugly monkey. Holy F asterisk CK! Isn't this the bully and who stole our goddess Su Xiaolan? Immediately afterward, Lin drew a few hostile glares from time to time, which he enjoyed very much. He was thinking about when a villain would jump out to provoke him. After all, he hadn't had a chance to flex after progressing to the soul formation stage, so he needed some blind disciples to farm experience for him. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any sense of accomplishment in cultivating. However, things didn't go as planned. Aside from some hostile glares from the disciples, nothing else happened, and Lin followed Su Xiaolan into the inner courtyard of the sect. A wave of extremely comfortable flame energy rushed toward him, making his entire body feel at ease. On both sides of the path were maple leaves that were as red as fire, making them appear as dazzling as the clouds. A cool breeze blew past, and a few maple leaves could be seen dancing in the wind. They were like blazing fire fairies, slowly circling and dancing in the air. At the end of this path, there was a white pavilion that was over 100 feet tall. It was ancient and majestic, and a faint aura of energy revolved around it, making it appear as if a huge beast was crouching in the air. "Junior sister, I'll wait for you at the Dao platform." Lan Yan waved her hand in farewell, and Lin knew that there was a Dao Enlightenment Fire God Rock at the Dao platform of the Vermilion Bird sect. If Su Xiaolan wanted to awaken her domain, that place would be very helpful. Elder Zhu Yuan Zhou will be in charge of your matters later. His temper isn't very good, so remember to be polite to him. Su Xiaolan turned to Enlin and spoke softly. "Don't worry, there's nothing that can't be solved with a steamer of stuffed buns. If there are, then I'll make 10 steamers." And Lin replied with a confident expression. Su Xiaolan rolled her eyes. "If you really piss off Elder Zhu, then even 100 steamers of stuffed buns won't be enough." Soon, the two of them arrived at the pavilion and stood outside the door on the top floor. 2 red-robed sect disciples stood outside the door with solemn expressions and powerful auras emanating from their bodies. They didn't even take a second glance at Enlin and the others. Su Xiaolan bowed respectfully outside the door. "Vermilion Bird sect disciple Su Xiaolan requests to see Elder Zhu." "Haha, so it's you, Xiaolan. I've heard about you. Come in." A hearty and coarse voice sounded from within the door. The door opened on its own, and Enlin was greeted by the sight of a middle-aged man with crimson hair and a bright smile on his face. "You must be Su Xiaolan's good friend, Enlin, am I right?" Elder Zhu asked with a smile, and Lin immediately bowed respectfully. Junior Enlin pays his respects to Elder Zhu. Elder Zhu chuckled and stroked his long beard with a hint of a smile on his face. "I heard that you want to obtain the holy flame of our sect? Why don't you officially join our Vermilion Bird sect and become a core disciple? That way, you'll be able to get close to us, And Lin faltered upon hearing this. Why did this make him feel as if he had been caught red-handed? He was feeling a little panicked. Before he could recover from his shock, Su Xiaolan immediately flared up with rage. "Elder Zhu, I've already arranged for him to become an in-name disciple of the sect. Don't go back on your word." Elder Zhu didn't get angry in the face of Su Xiaolan's rebuke. Instead, a smug expression appeared on his face. "See, and Lin hasn't even said anything yet, and you're already siding with him?" Su Xiaolan blushed upon hearing this, and she opened her mouth to say something. In the end, she decided not to waste her breath on him and brought out 20 steamers of stuffed buns from her storage ring. Slap! The 20 steamers of stuffed buns were stacked neatly on the ground, reaching all the way to the ceiling. Elder Zhu blinked with confusion at the sight of the tall pile of stuffed buns. "Xiaolan, what are you? These are gifts that Enlin brought for you. 10 steamers are for you, and the other 10 are for the sect leader." Su Xiaolan snapped. Elder Zhu laughed heartily upon hearing this. "And Lin sure is an interesting person. This is the first time I've seen someone give stuffed buns as a gift. All right, I'll give it a try." He shook his head. He couldn't blame his junior for being inconsiderate, so he just treated it as a joke. Elder Zhu took a bite of most of the stuffed buns and was just about to compliment them on how delicious they were when his body suddenly shuddered and he began to chew like crazy. He looked at Enlin in shock before turning to look at the calm and collected Su Xiaolan before continuing to eat his stuffed buns. 1 minute later, the entire steamer of stuffed buns had been devoured. "My dear niece, my big brother isn't at the sect, so I'll be taking all of these stuffed buns in case they go bad." Elder Zhu chuckled as his eyes lit up, and he instantly stowed all 19 steamers of stuffed buns into his storage ring. Su Xiaolan shot a glance at Elder Zhu and harumphed lightly. "This is the first time I've heard that food can go bad after being stored in a storage ring." Elder Zhu blushed as he waved his sleeve. "I'll take care of Mr. Enlin, so there's no need for you to give the stuffed buns to the sect leader." And Lin suddenly felt like there was a lot of information to take in as he listened to this conversation. Niece? Big brother? No wonder he felt like the conversation between Su Xiaolan and Elder Zhu was a little strange. So the two of them were F*King relatives. Even the sect leader was Su Xiaolan's uncle. And Lin couldn't help but look up into the sky as he heaved a forlorn sigh. In this materialistic society, no matter where he went, he would meet a group of people who came from connections. Pure geniuses like him were rare. Chapter 409. Not long after that, and Lin followed Elder Zhu to the Vermilion Bird Sect's Oath Tree and officially became an in-name disciple of the Vermilion Bird Sect. And Lin chose to become an in-name disciple because he had a very high degree of freedom. No one would take care of him, and he didn't have to bear any responsibilities. To put it even more bluntly, an in-name disciple of the sect was a child that no master was willing to teach. Under normal circumstances, an in-name disciple didn't even have the right to enter the main sect. They could only work for some external branches of the sect and leave with a basic body refinement mantra to play with. But no matter what, and Lin was now a member of the Vermilion Bird Sect, and he was the #1 in-name disciple of the Vermilion Bird Sect. Apparently, the #2 in-name disciple of the Vermilion Bird Sect had already reached the 9th stage Tao body and was about to become an official disciple of the sect. Boom! A flame seal suddenly fell from the sky and attached itself onto Lin's body. He could feel that he was being protected by some kind of mysterious power. This was the power of the Holy Flame, which meant that he was now a member of the Vermilion Bird Sect and was being protected by the Holy Flame of the Vermilion Bird. Next, you have to go to the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds and obtain the projection of the Vermilion Bird Flame Wing. Only then will you have the right to come into contact with the holy flame of the Vermilion Bird, Elder Zhu said slowly as he chewed on a bun. And Lin bowed. Thank you for your help, Elder Zhu. I will do my best. And Lin, the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds, is an alternate dimension with many powerful mutant beasts and dangerous, restricted areas. You have to prioritize your own safety, and don't force yourself, Su Xiaolin cautioned. Go to the Tao platform and wait for my successful return. I hope you'll be at the half-step soul formation stage by the time I return. Good luck. And Lin patted Su Xiaolan's shoulder with a confident smile. Su Xiaolan nodded lightly and looked deeply into Lin's eyes. All right, I'll be going now. Good luck to you too. Elder Zhu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His niece couldn't possibly be this gentle. After Su Xiaolan left, and Lin followed Elder Zhu to the entrance of the Vermilion Bird Realm. If he wanted to go to the Vermilion Bird Trial Realm, he had to go through this spatial gate. At this moment, there were already 5 sect disciples standing quietly outside the door, obviously waiting for something. When the 5 disciples saw Elder Zhu, they all bowed respectfully. Elder Zhu spoke with a solemn expression. This Mr. Lin is also going to participate in the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds that is held once every 5 years. Make sure to take good care of him when you're in the alternate world. Understand? The 5 disciples were stunned when they heard this, and then they responded respectfully. They didn't say anything further, but their faces carried a wisp of shock that was difficult to conceal. And Lin's heart jolted upon hearing this. The Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds that occurred once every 5 years. So the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds wasn't a trial that could be entered at any time. There were 5 sect disciples standing in front of him, and from their auras, they were all at the soul formation stage. This further highlighted the extraordinariness of this trial. Furthermore, the number of people who participated in this trial that occurred once every 5 years was extremely small, so it was most likely going to be extremely difficult to obtain. Furthermore, when Lin mentioned the Holy Flame, Su Xiaolan had told him that she would return to the sect in a month, so she had most likely calculated the opening time of the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds. Su Xiaolan hadn't told him about these things in advance, most likely because she was worried that he would take it to heart and refuse to go. With this in mind, Lin felt a heavy sense of camaraderie. This is a return trip token. If you find the projection of the Vermilion Bird Flamewing or encounter any danger you can't resolve, use your vital energy to activate this token and return here safely. There's still an hour before the spatial gate opens, so rest well. Elder Zhu handed a red token to Lin. and Lin accepted the red token and bowed to express his gratitude. After that, Elder Zhu left, leaving behind Lin and the 5 vermilion bird sect disciples. Holy F*** CK and Lin, did you really marry into our sect? You're even allowed to participate in the vermilion bird trial grounds. An ordinary-looking man with crimson pupils quickly walked over and said with a surprised expression, and Lin's lips twitched slightly, Mr. Amohai, don't say things like that. Otherwise, this will become big news in your sect again tomorrow. This man was none other than the number 1 disciple of the Vermilion Bird sect, Amohai, and Lin had a very deep impression of this man. After all, Amohai was a freak who begged Xiao Cho to burn him with fire and then yelled that it felt good. What's there to be afraid of? It's only a matter of time anyway. By the way, where's Brother Monkey? Why don't I see him? Amohai looked around with an expectant expression, and Lin replied honestly, Xiao Cho and Dabai are both resting in the guest courtyard. They're not members of the Vermilion Bird sect, so they can't enter the Vermilion Bird trial grounds. Humph. Are you a member of the Vermilion Bird sect? You're just an outsider who got in through connections, yet you're dreaming of condensing a holy flame in your sea of vital energy. A half-baked bastard, like you won't even be able to touch the projection of the Vermilion Bird flame wing, much less the holy Vermilion Bird flame wing. A cold and disdainful voice suddenly sounded, and Lin turned toward the source of the voice to find a handsome man looking at him with hostility on his face. He was a little dazed. What was going on? Why was he being mocked? I'm so nervous. Should I retaliate? At this moment, Amohai spoke, and Lin, don't pay any attention to that man. There's a hint of jealousy in his voice, and he's very petty. To tell you the truth, he's in love with Su Xiaolan, but to his surprise, Su Xiaolan completely ignores him and can't even be bothered to say anything to him. Now that he sees that Su Xiaolan is on very good terms with you, he must have been dealt a heavy blow, so he's here to bite you. Amohai, watch your language. The man roared with rage. Brother Ji Yongfang, you're the one who should watch your language. Don't embarrass the Vermilion Bird sect. Amohai retorted, and Lin had an innocent expression on his face. What the hell was going on? Ji Yongfang liked Su Xiaolan, but was ignored by her, and now he was venting his anger on Lin? He hadn't even done anything, yet he was being mocked by a certain villain? He and Su Xiaolan were just friends. In the spirit of building a harmonious society, he turned to Ji Yongfang with a benevolent expression. F***CK off. A piece of trash like you dares to covet my Tao partner? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? You're a toad lusting after a swan. Do you know why Su Xiaolan is on good terms with me, but ignores you? That's because no one wants to talk to a pile of sh**t. She likes me, a divine jade that's filled with the beauty of heaven and earth. Not a pile of sh**t like you. And Lin's voice was forceful, and it reverberated through the air like a clap of thunder. Amohai was dumbstruck, and his mouth gaped open. Ji Yongfang was also rooted to the spot, and his head buzzed. He had no idea what was going on. The other 3 sect disciples also stared blankly at Lin, then at the dumbstruck Ji Yongfang. One of the male disciples couldn't help but burst into laughter. You've got guts. Ji Yongfang's voice trembled, and he felt as if he had a mouthful of blood in his chest. No one had ever insulted him like this in his entire life. It does take a lot of guts to step on sh**t, and Lin nodded in agreement. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Ptaha. Amohai finally couldn't help but burst into laughter. He patted Lin's shoulder to express his admiration. You're amazing, brother Lin. When it comes to insulting people, I only admire you. The other 2 disciples came back to their senses, and they couldn't help but cover their mouths and laugh. Ji Yongfang gritted his teeth in anger, but he didn't know what to say. And Lin's mouth was like cannon fire, and he couldn't win against Lin at all. If he wanted to make a move, he would definitely be punished by the sect. Ji Yongfang thought for a moment and could only walk away with a sullen face. He still couldn't figure it out. Didn't he just say a word of mockery? How did it turn out like this? And Lin looked at Ji Yongfang's back with his hands behind his back and a calm expression on his face. He sighed, "Sigh, people are really not what they used to be, and the morals of the world are degenerating day by day." Chapter 410. Emo Hai slung an arm around Lin's shoulder with a buoyant grin on his face. "Mr. Lin, you sure are a passionate man. It's been a long time since I've seen someone insult someone in such a straightforward manner." And Lin shook his head in a modest manner. "Mr. Emo Hai, you're far too kind. I'm just a street sweeper in the sect. I clean up any place that's not clean." Emo Hai faltered for a moment before a look of admiration appeared on his face. At this moment, a handsome male disciple made his way over and saluted Lin. "I am Lu Jiaji of the Vermilion Bird sect. Greetings, Mr. Lin." "Mr. Lu Jiaji, it's an honor to meet you." And Lin returned the salute with a gentlemanly salute. Emo Hai wanted to laugh upon seeing Lin's reaction. The contrast was far too stark. Brother Lu Jiaji is a prodigy, second only to me in the sect. He reached the soul formation stage at 26 and the soul formation intermediate stage at 32. He's a very powerful cultivator, Emo Hai introduced to Lin. Lu Jiaji's lips twitched upon hearing this. He couldn't stand people like Emo Hai who would compliment themselves while introducing others. And Lin nodded excitedly upon hearing this. "That's indeed very impressive. I only reached the soul formation stage at 20. I'll be in your care in the future." Emo Hai. Lu Jiaji. "By the way, Mr. Emo Hai was only at the half-step soul formation stage 2 years ago. How old were you?" And Lin asked curiously. Emo Hai rolled his eyes. "Mr. Lin, you're doing this on purpose, aren't you?" He reached the soul formation stage at 23. Lu Jiaji cleared his throat with a vengeful smile on his face. "Hee, now you know what it feels like to be flexed by someone else." Sigh. As expected of the number 1 prodigy of the celestial court, and Lin. "Only someone like you is worthy of junior sister, Su Xiaolan." Emo Hai shook his head and sighed. "Oh, right. Su Xiaolan said that she's already condensing holy flames in her sea of vital energy. According to the rule that the Vermilion Bird trial grounds only open once every 5 years. Doesn't that mean she came to the Vermilion Bird trial grounds 5 years ago? Why are you so late?" And Lin was a little puzzled. Emo Hai rolled his eyes at Lin. "Fellow Taoist Lin, are you addicted to striking people down?" And Lin blinked his innocent eyes. This time, he really didn't do it on purpose. Lu Jiaji explained with a smile. "Junior sister Su Xiaolan possesses an extremely pure divine phoenix bloodline. She doesn't need to look for the projection of the Vermilion Bird Flamewing when she enters the Vermilion Bird trial grounds. Those flame wings will automatically float toward her, so the trial is not difficult or dangerous for her at all. She only needs to stand on the spot after she enters." Holy sh*t, so scary? That's practically cheating. And Lin's eyes widened in shock. Lu Jiaji smiled mysteriously at Emo Hai. "Actually, junior brother Emo Hai's bloodline isn't inferior to junior sister Su Xiaolan's divine phoenix bloodline. It's just that his bloodline isn't very compatible with the projection of the Vermilion Bird Flamewing. However, after junior sister Su Xiaolan received Xin Yin's inheritance and successfully awakened her true dragon bloodline, she has fused the Dragon Phoenix bloodline and is slightly superior to senior brother Emo Hai. Perhaps in a few years, the number 1 prodigy of the Vermilion Bird Flamewing will change hands." Emo Hai was at a loss for words upon hearing Lu Jiaji's words. He could only heave a forlorn sigh. "Senior disciple Lu, please don't say anything else. If worst comes to worst, I won't have to say things like, 'You're second only to me,' when I introduce you next time, all right?" And Lin was listening intently and interjected, If the two of you are so powerful, then what's Ji Yongfang's ranking? Him. A disdainful expression appeared on Lu Jiaji's face. He's barely in the top 10 of the younger generation. He's just relying on the fact that his father is an elder. He reached the soul formation initial stage at 32 years old, and he's almost 40 years old now, but he still hasn't reached the soul formation intermediate stage. And Lin nodded with satisfaction upon hearing this. This type of person posed almost no threat to him. He then looked at the disciples on both sides of the otherworld gate and pointed at the tall and sexy woman who was wearing a snow-white tunic dress but had an indifferent expression like an ice beauty and asked, "Then who is she?" Even Mo Hai's interest was piqued this time. Her name is Shangguan Yi, and she's extremely talented. She reached the soul formation stage at 28 and the soul formation intermediate stage at 35. She's very powerful among the younger generation, but she's a weirdo. And Lin was curious. Oh, how so? The entire sect is playing with fire, but she's the only one playing with ice. Mo Hai spoke with a peculiar expression. And Lin, how admirable. This is a completely different kind of firework. It's a unique clear stream. The problem is, who's going to teach her how to play with ice? Lu Jiaji replied with a mysterious expression. No one's going to teach her. She's self-taught. According to her, she'll be able to attain the true intent of the Tao of Ice just by watching us play with fire. And Lin swallowed nervously. What was a freak? This was what a freak should be. There's actually nothing wrong with that. If you guys go overboard and start a fire, she can still be a firefighter. And Lin chuckled. Lu Jiaji, Mo Hai. And Lin then turned to the last man. This man appeared to be around 15 to 16 years of age. His eyes were empty and soulless, and he looked up at the clear blue sky as if there was nothing around him that could attract his attention. Mo Hai introduced. That man's name is Yang Yuan, and he's the #1 prodigy in the sect. He's already over 200 years old. And Lin was shocked to hear this. The #1 prodigy in the sect? He's already over 200 years old. Why is he only trying to condense the holy flame in his sea of vital energy now? Air. A complex expression appeared on Mo Hai's face. He looked down on the holy flame in the beginning and wanted to create his own unique true flame. He's already at the soul formation pinnacle stage, and just as he was about to break through to the return to void stage, he discovered that he was missing a type of flame, which is why he came to participate in the Vermilion Bird trial grounds. He should become an elder of our sect in half a month's time. And Lin's eyes widened as he listened to this. He suddenly felt like there was a lot of flexing going on in life. He looked down on the holy flame of the Vermilion Bird. Would you believe that? Everyone was playing with fire, but she insisted on playing with ice. Would you believe that? A toad lusting after swan meat. Would you believe that? And Lin felt like he shouldn't be complacent. He should learn from these seniors and continue to create glory on his path to the pinnacle of life. Boom! Right at this moment, the crimson spatial gate suddenly began to tremor violently. The spatial passageway to the Vermilion Bird trial grounds has opened. Mo Hai exclaimed with excitement. At the same time, and Lin, Ji Yongfang, Lu Jiaji, Shangguan Yi, and Yang Yuan all turned to look at the spatial gate. The red ripples emitted a clear and crystalline light, appearing transparent and full of movement. Ji Yongfang shot a cold glance at Lin before stepping into the spatial passageway. Shangguan Yi and Yang Yuan also stepped into the spatial gate without any hesitation. Let's go as well, Mo Hai said with a smile. Mr. and Lin, the Vermilion Bird trial grounds are extremely perilous. Remember to prioritize your own safety, no matter what you do. Don't venture into unknown perilous areas, otherwise even your teleportation badge won't be able to save you, Lu Jiaji cautioned. And Lin nodded with a solemn expression. The Vermilion Bird trial grounds was the realm where the ancient holy beast, the Vermilion Bird, had once been sealed. After the Vermilion Bird broke free, It transformed that realm into a boundless realm of flames in a fit of rage, from which projections of its flaming wings could be seen from time to time. There were powerful restrictions in that realm that could prevent all return to void stage mighty figures from entering, but it was the ideal trial ground for soul formation stage cultivators. There were boundless violent flames, remnants of ancient mutant beasts, and mysterious and unfathomable mystic treasures, and Lin looked at the crimson spatial gate with a determined expression as he began his journey to the Vermilion Bird trial grounds. Chapter 411. The space around him warped, and Lin found himself on a crimson continent. Behind him, the white gate of light slowly shrank before finally disappearing. Dark red clouds stretched as far as the eye could see. From time to time, scorching flames would burst through the clouds or explode in the air, or rain would fall like a crimson curtain of rain, baring its fangs to the world. The surrounding temperature was extremely high, and the air twisted and warped soundlessly. If a cultivator of the Tao body stage were to appear here, they probably wouldn't even be able to last 15 minutes. Looks like Ji Yongfeng, Shangguan Yi, and Yang Yuan have all gone off to search for projections of the Vermilion Bird Flamewing. And Mo Hai stood beside Lin with a smile. New projections of the Vermilion Bird Flamewing materialize every few years, so there are very few of them. The 6 of us are competitors, so of course they have to take advantage of this opportunity, Lu Jiaji replied in an unhurried manner. And Lin stared at the vast expanse of mountains in the distance, and he was a little dazed. I heard that there is a certain chance that the projections of the Vermilion Bird Flamewing are contained within the bodies of the powerful mutant beasts within the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds, and they can also be found in mystic realms and perilous realms. Lastly, there are projections of the Vermilion Bird Flamewing in the clouds in the sky. However, the projections of the Vermilion Bird Flamewing in the clouds are the most elusive, and they are constantly being attacked by the fearsome power of flames. Which path do you guys plan on taking? And Mo Hai looked up into the sky with a resigned expression. I'm not Sister Su Xiaolan, so I'll just forget about the Vermilion Bird Flamewing in the clouds. I plan on fighting mutant beasts. That's the simplest and most violent method. I'll go to the western mystic realms and perilous realms. After all, my combat prowess isn't that great, but I'm pretty good at self-defense, Lu Jiaji replied. There are all kinds of unstable mystic realms and perilous realms in the western region of the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds. There were all kinds of powerful ancient mutant beasts in the northern region, and there was a boundless sea of crimson flames in the eastern region. Apparently, there were extremely powerful mystic treasures in the southern region, but it was a perilous realm with a mortality rate of over 90%, so most sect disciples wouldn't go there. Then I'll go look for mutant beasts as well. I don't have any other strong points, but I'm good at fighting. And Lin hesitated for a moment before replying. Ha ha ha, that's great. I knew that fellow Taoist and Lin would prefer to travel with the number 1 genius like me. And Mo Hai laughed heartily as he patted Lin's shoulder and said, Since I've agreed to Elder Zhu's request, I will definitely protect you. Let's move together. You can take the first Vermilion Bird Flamewing. And Lin was a little touched as he looked at Mo Hai. All right then, let's work together and try to get a high-grade Vermilion Bird Flamewing each. Of course. As the number 1 disciple of the sect's younger generation, I won't go back until I obtain the high-grade Vermilion Bird Flamewing. Mo Hai's reply was also very firm. The projection of the Vermilion Bird Flamewing was split into 3 grades: low grade, medium grade, and high grade. The higher the grade of the Vermilion Bird Flamewing projection, the purer and more boundless holy flame energy one would receive when receiving the power of the holy vermilion flame. Then I'll take my leave first. I wish everyone a smooth journey. Lu Jiaji looked at the 2 people with high morale, smiled, and began to fly west on his sword. Mo Hai turned to Lin. Let's set off as well. All right. And Lin nodded before rising into the air atop his brick. Mo Hai wielded a crimson ancient saber as he rose into the air with Lin. The two of them transformed into two streaks of light as they flew toward the northern region of the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds. And Lin looked down into the distance, searching for any mutant beasts that might appear. The mutant beasts that appeared here didn't have a clear cultivation base. The only way to gauge their strength was through the purity of their flames. These mutant beasts were all fire-type mutant beasts, spirit fire mutant beasts, earth fire mutant beasts, and heavenly fire mutant beasts. Mortal fire mutant beasts were the most ordinary mutant beasts and didn't have the projection of the vermilion bird flame wing within their bodies. Spirit fire mutant beasts had a certain probability of containing a low-grade projection of the vermilion bird flame wing within their bodies. Earth fire mutant beasts had a certain probability of containing a mid-grade projection of the vermilion bird flame wing within their bodies, and heavenly fire mutant beasts had a certain probability of containing a high-grade projection of the vermilion bird flame wing within their bodies. Mo Hai's target was none other than the heavenly fire mutant beasts. Even though his cultivation base was only at the soul formation initial stage, he had already brought along a mystic treasure of the sect, so he was determined to obtain a heavenly fire mutant beast. Meanwhile, Enlin was trying to gather more holy flames in his sea of vital energy in order to feed and Kirin to his heart's content. So he also wanted to try and obtain a high-grade projection of the vermilion bird flame wing. Rumble! Not long after, the ground suddenly began to tremor as if a wave of flames was approaching from the distance. And Lin looked down to discover a vast expanse of yellow flames sweeping toward them with an extremely powerful aura. Those are explosive flame rats that feed on earth fire. They're normal fire-type spirit beasts, so we can ignore them. Mo Hai couldn't be bothered to look at them anymore as he turned his attention elsewhere. And Lin looked down with interest at the wave of flames that was approaching them. Hundreds of purple rats that were even larger than cows with their bodies burning with flames surged through the air like a moving carpet of flames. It was quite an interesting sight to behold. And Lin and Mo Hai flew further and further away, encountering perilous situations such as dark flame winds and heavenly meteor flames. They were even attacked by a flock of flying flame birds, but they were all nullified by their powerful abilities. 2 hours later, they arrived at a cluster of majestic mountains. Each of the mountains here was several thousand meters tall, and some of them even reached into the clouds of flames, making it impossible to tell how tall they were. Boom! A violent explosion suddenly erupted between heaven and earth. A mountain in the distance suddenly erupted with a vast amount of crimson lava. A series of rocks covered in lava fell to the ground like balls of crimson fireworks, transforming the ground within a radius of several kilometers into a barren wasteland. Powerful mutant beasts usually reside in places with violent volcanic activity. Come on, let's go and have a look. Mo Hai's eyes lit up upon seeing this, and he flew toward the direction of the erupting volcano on his saber. And Lin followed behind Mo Hai, admiring the beautiful scenery that resembled the end of the world. The two of them drew closer and closer to the center of the erupting volcano, and in the end, they were less than 10,000 meters away from it. Wait, I see a black crystal flame python. Mo Hai suddenly stopped flying and signaled for Enlin to descend slowly. The erupting volcano was still in progress, and a resounding boom reverberated throughout heaven and earth. However, the two of them descended soundlessly. Mo Hai pointed toward a certain direction in the northeast, and he said excitedly, "Do you see that? There's a python that looks very similar to the rocks on the mountain halfway up the mountain 1.5 kilometers away." And Lin was initially confused, but he looked in the direction that Mo Hai was pointing, and sure enough, he saw a black python over 1,000 feet in length coiling around the mountain. It was looking in the direction of the erupting volcano, and its aura was completely concealed. Fortunately, Mo Hai was extremely sensitive to the fluctuations of the aura of flames. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to discover this python. This was because its color was no different from the rocks on the mountain, and even its pupils were black. The two of them concealed their auras as they slowly approached. This black crystal flame python is an earth-fire mutant beast, and its power is comparable to that of a soul formation stage cultivator. We can't act rashly. We have to plan carefully and find the right opportunity to strike, Mo Hai said in a low voice, and Lin nodded with a solemn expression. All right. A gratified smile appeared on Mo Hai's face, and he was just about to explain the battle plan. Bam! A violent sonic boom suddenly erupted. A figure with a pair of white wings of wind pierced through space at a speed that was inconceivable to the naked eye. The black longsword in its hand was shimmering with white winds, and it was exuding an astonishing sharpness. It covered a distance of several thousand feet in an instant. The black crystal flame python opened its eyes and looked toward a certain direction with shock and horror on its face. Black crystalline flames had only just erupted from its body when the oncoming streak of white light transformed into a dazzling white line that flashed through the air. Boom! The python's massive head was sliced in half, and blood gushed forth like a rain of flames as its life force was completely severed. Mo Hai looked at the figure with the wings of wind, and his mouth gaped open, but he was unable to utter a single word. Didn't they say they would take it slow? What happened to waiting for the right opportunity to strike? You're making me feel very awkward. And Lin turned around with a smile on his face. What do you think? My speed of lightning is not bad, right? Mo Hai's lips twitched slightly before he nodded with a hint of admiration. Mr. and Lin, your speed of lightning is truly impressive. Chapter 412. You're far too kind, Mr. Mo Hai. And Lin smiled lightly. This kind of situation had happened far too many times, so he was already used to it. Mo Hai made his way over to the black crystal flame python before slicing its body open with his saber. A ball of flames in the shape of a crimson wing burned brightly within the python's body. Pure flame power rippled outward, creating an invigorating sight to behold. You're quite lucky to have found an intermediate-grade projection of the vermilion bird flame wing on the first earth-fire mutant beast. Here, Lin, take it and absorb its energy. Mo Hai handed the flame wing to Lin with a smile. The flame wing couldn't be stowed away into storage rings, so each person could only take one flame wing with them when they returned to the vermilion bird sect. Their target was the high-grade projection of the vermilion bird flame wing, so they naturally chose to absorb the energy of these low-grade flame wings. And Lin accepted the projection of the flame wing and activated an absorption spell technique to absorb the flame power within it into his body. The flame wing was imbued with an extremely vast amount of flame power that was comparable to the effect of a top-grade spirit pill. After absorbing the flame power from the flame wing, his eyes became extremely bright, and the 4 divine flames within his body all received a slight boost. This flame wing really is good stuff. If we continue to hunt mutant beasts here and absorb these flame wings, I'm sure we'll be able to make a huge breakthrough in the Tao of flame power. And Lin exclaimed. Mo Hai shook his head with a smile. Only you, Mr. Lin, would say something like that. All of our sect disciples risk their lives to come to this forbidden area, and we'd be thanking the heavens if we could obtain an intermediate-grade projection of the vermilion bird flame wing. We wouldn't dare to treat this place like a hunting ground, and Lin's eyes lit up. Is there a time limit to the vermilion bird trial grounds? Mo Hai faltered slightly upon hearing this. The red teleportation badge can last for about 7 days. Once the time is up, the red teleportation badge will automatically teleport us back to the vermilion bird sect. Of course, we can also activate it earlier after we obtain the flame wing. Mr. Lin, you're not planning to keep collecting flame wings here, are you? This alternate world is far more dangerous than you and I can imagine. Over 20 soul formation final stage cultivators have perished here. Don't worry, I won't be staying here for too long. Let's continue hunting, and Lin said with a smile. If he couldn't stay for 7 days, he would stay for 6. And Mo Hai heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that Lin was no longer interested. He had now acknowledged Lin's strength. If the two of them worked together, even if they encountered a heavenly fire exotic beast, they might be able to kill it without using that priceless artifact. If there were no accidents, he would be able to collect 2 high-grade fire feathers in 4 days. The two of them didn't waste any more time. They soared into the sky again and went deep into the mountains. Unknowingly, another 20 hours had passed. The two of them had slain over a dozen spirit fire mutant beasts and 4 earth fire mutant beasts in total, which was quite a bountiful harvest. But they didn't encounter any heavenly fire mutant beasts. Hua! A crimson saber projection over 100 feet in length imbued with terrifying flame power tore through the white flame tiger's flame domain, instantly slicing its massive body in half. Mo-Hai retracted his saber with a disdainful expression on his face. "You're just a little kitten. How dare you challenge me? What an ignorant fool!" Clap, clap, clap. And Lin applauded. "That's 70 points for acting tough. If you hadn't been looking at the tiger on the ground and had instead been looking at the sky, you would have gotten another 10 points. Mo-Hai nodded with a humble expression. "Thank you for your guidance, Mr. and Lin. I'll be sure to pay more attention next time." And Lin nodded with a gratified expression. During the boring mutant beast hunting journey, he would occasionally give Mo-Hai pointers on how to act tough. As such, Mo-Hai's acting tough skills had improved by leaps and bounds during this period of time. Mo-Hai absorbed the flame power of the vermilion bird flame wing projection and nodded with satisfaction. "Let's go and continue searching for heavenly fire mutant beasts." And Lin didn't move. Instead, he stared at the white flame tiger's white flesh with hints of gold. He calculated the time and realized that it was about time for his frying pan to recover its power. He couldn't let this opportunity to cook go to waste. After all, this was an extremely delicious dish. "Mr. and Lin, what's wrong?" Mo-Hai asked curiously at the sight of Lin's strange expression. "Huh?" And Lin came to his senses and asked with a serious expression, "Mr. Mo-Hai, are you hungry?" Mo-Hai shook his head. "I'm a soul formation stage, cultivator. I won't be affected by not eating for a few days." And Lin nodded. "As long as you're not hungry. I'm going to cook a portion of tiger meat first. I'm warning you. Don't try to steal my meat later." He walked toward the white flame tiger with his evil slaying sword in hand as he spoke. Mo-Hai stared at Lin with a confused expression. "You're going to cook tiger meat now? You're scared that I'm going to steal your meat? Are you kidding me? What the hell are you thinking?" And Lin ignored Mo-Hai's words and brought out his frying pan from his storage ring. He started a fire and tossed the white tiger meat into the air. His evil slaying sword transformed into a series of black shadows as it sliced the huge piece of meat into several hundred well-proportioned and translucent pieces of meat. The pieces of meat then fell into the frying pan and began to stir-fry. Mo-Hai couldn't help but raise his thumb at Lin's smooth and fluid movements. "You're an expert." As he continued to stir-fry, an alluring aroma finally began to waft through the air. Mo-Hai's body trembled as an expression of incredulity appeared on his face. "Holy F*** this smell! Could it be that the white flame tiger's meat is a top-notch ingredient? Hee, the flame-vanquishing white tiger is only a slightly better ingredient at most. The key is still my cooking skills. Otherwise, do you think I would just toss such a huge white tiger carcass onto the ground?" And Lin chuckled lightly. Mo-Hai thought about it and agreed with Lin. As the aroma grew stronger and stronger, the meat was about to be cooked. He couldn't help but swallow as he stared at the meat in the frying pan with a scorching gaze. "Can I take back what I just said?" And Lin glanced at Mo-Hai. "Didn't you say you weren't hungry? Didn't you say I was joking?" An awkward expression appeared on Mo-Hai's face. "I was just spouting nonsense. I haven't eaten for a few days. Can you take pity on me and give me some of the meat in the frying pan?" And Lin replied in a resolute voice, "No." Mo-Hai. Right at this moment, a few huge wolves emitting black flames slowly approached Lin. They stared intently at the meat in the frying pan with dangerous and greedy expressions on their faces. Wow, my meat can even attract mutant beasts. I've struck gold. I've struck gold. An elated expression appeared on Enlin's face as he looked at the huge wolves. Mr. Enlin, leave your safety to me. Leave these ancient, ferocious wolves to me. Don't worry. Just give me some of the meat to replenish my energy after I take care of these monsters. Mo-Hi's battle intent surged. Right at this moment, the flaming clouds in the distance surged violently. A white figure flew toward them with over 1,000 flaming birds trailing behind her. Shangguan-Yi, Mo-Hi faltered slightly upon seeing this figure. The Vermilion bird trial grounds were so big, so it was quite a coincidence that they were able to meet here. Unfortunately, it didn't seem to be a very friendly encounter. Behind Shangguan-Yi, over 1,000 flaming birds surged toward them like a sea of flames, and their terrifying aura made it difficult for him to breathe. The 6-winged, golden flaming bird at the very front was a heavenly fire mutant beast. Mr. Mo-Hi, Mr. Enlin, please help me stall these flaming birds for 10 seconds while I prepare a spell technique. Shangguan-Yi's face was deathly pale as she transmitted her voice to Enlin from afar. Enlin was also dumbstruck for a few seconds. Holy F***, Shangguan-Yi, you're better at absorbing monsters than I am. Over 1,000 of them at once. An awkward expression appeared on Shangguan-Yi's face upon hearing this, but she continued to fly toward Enlin and the others at an even faster speed. Enlin's heart throbbed with pain as he looked at the uncooked meat in the frying pan. If he were to stall now, then he would have completely wasted the opportunity to enhance the flavor of the frying pan. Fellow Taoist Mo-Hi, you said that you'd protect me. I'm going to go ahead and leave the flaming birds to you. After you're done, I'll give you 1/3 of my meat. Enlin looked at Mo-Hi with a solemn expression. Mo-Hi almost blacked out upon hearing this. One heavenly fire mutant beast level flaming bird. Over 100 spirit fire mutant beasts, and over 1,000 normal fire mutant beasts. How was he going to defend himself? Mr. Enlin, I was just spouting nonsense just then. Can you just pretend I didn't say that? Mo-Hi looked up at the flaming birds in the sky, and tears almost flowed from his eyes. Chapter 413. Shangguan-Yi was a little surprised to see that Enlin was still cooking. Mr. Enlin, aren't you going to help? Enlin rolled his eyes at Shangguan-Yi. Can't you see that I'm busy? Shangguan-Yi was just about to say something when she suddenly caught a whiff of an extremely alluring aroma when she was only about 1,000 feet away from Enlin. It was no exaggeration to say that this aroma was an exotic aroma that whetted her appetite. She stared at the meat in the frying pan in amazement and immediately shut her mouth. Shangguan-Yi landed gracefully beside Enlin in a white dress. Then I'll have to trouble you to buy me 10 seconds of time, Mr. Mo-Hi. Mo-Hi had no choice but to stand in front of Enlin and Shangguan-Yi with a golden disc in his hand. This disc was the sect's mystic treasure, the Phoenix Punishment Disc. It could draw upon the power of the Heavenly Phoenix's true spirit to unleash an extremely powerful offensive and defensive spell formation against its enemies. It wouldn't even have to fear heavenly fire mutant beasts. Even though the mystic treasure was very powerful, the energy within it would decrease every time it was used. So Mo-Hi was quite reluctant to use it up. Enlin also pulled out his 2 Gundams from his storage ring. Mr. Mo-Hi, I'll also assign 2 powerful helpers to you. They're at least as powerful as 4 Ji-Yongfangs. Shangguan-Yi was in the middle of chanting her incantation and almost forgot what she was supposed to say. Mo-Hi's chest constricted as he spoke with a resigned expression. Big brother, do you have a vendetta against Ji-Yongfang? He's not even here. How can you belittle him? I'm not belittling him. I'm just telling the truth. Enlin replied in an indifferent voice. Mo-Hi. At this moment, the 6-winged golden flame raven and over 1,000 other firebirds were already upon them. and all of them were imbued with terrifying power. Phoenix Punishment Disc, True Spirit Defensive Spell Formation. A golden light flashed through Emo High's crimson eyes as he activated the power of the Phoenix Punishment Disc. A defensive formation expended a lot less energy than a killing formation. This flaming bird was Shangguan Yi's prey anyway, so he had no intention of using a killing formation. The cry of a phoenix resounded through the clouds, following which a massive golden barrier of light rose up from the ground. With Emo High at the center, it enveloped everything within a radius of 1,000 feet. Boom! Thousands of flaming birds crashed into the golden light barrier like a raging inferno, causing a deafening explosion. The fiery waves extended for over 1,000 meters, and extreme heat melted the ground and turned everything into ashes. Countless ancient runes floated above the golden defensive array, and an ancient and desolate energy reverberated in the air, completely resisting the terrifying impact. At the same time, Shangguan Yi held her long sword horizontally in front of her as a series of incantation seals flowed from her lips. The surrounding temperature suddenly plummeted as wind and snow began to fall, and Lin, who was stir-frying vegetables, was so angry that he almost cried. "I've finally prepared to cook the tiger meat, but you just froze it for me. What do you mean?" Shangguan Yi tapped her foot lightly onto the ground, and a blue snowflake pattern materialized on the ground before expanding for several kilometers to form a gigantic pattern that enshrouded all of the flaming birds within. Heavenly Ice Sword Formation. Kill! Shangguan Yi's cold voice was tinged with killing intent as her long sword transformed into a streak of blue light that soared into the sky. Boom! A power that threatened to freeze all things erupted from the snowflake pattern, causing all of the flaming birds to falter in unison. The six-winged golden flaming bird looked up at the flying swords in the sky with caution in its eyes. The flying swords let loose a clear cry before splitting into 10 into 100, 100 into 1,000, over 1,000 ice swords exuding the power of extreme frost hovered in the sky, resonating with the snowflake pattern on the ground as they fell from the sky toward the flock of flaming birds with monstrous killing intent. The battle between ice and fire had completely erupted at this moment. The violent flames of the flaming birds clashed with the ice swords, and a series of resounding booms erupted. Some of the flaming birds were pulverized by the ice swords, while others were pulverized by the flames of the flaming birds. The most powerful six-winged golden flaming bird was able to materialize over 100 flaming feathers with each flap of its wings, all of which were imbued with the power of flames before vanquishing the flying swords. However, right at this moment, the snowflake pattern on the ground suddenly glowed with a brilliant light as ice swords continued to materialize in the sky, and over 1,000 more swords appeared in the sky with the power of the snowflake pattern. There seemed to be no end to the number of ice swords. Flaming bird corpses fell to the ground like raindrops, and over half of them were gone in just a few seconds. The six-winged golden flaming bird immediately flapped its wings and transformed into a flaming tornado as it fled. Shangguan Yi's expression darkened, and the snowflake pattern on the ground suddenly contracted as the boundless power of ice and snow converged to form a flying sword of over 1,000 feet in length. This flying sword of ice was the true killing technique. It flew toward the six-winged golden flaming bird like a bolt of lightning, and the blade of the sword appeared to be translucent under the light of the flaming bird's flames. The fearsome aura emanating from the sword made the feathers of the six-winged golden flaming bird stand on end. The six-winged golden flaming bird immediately unleashed a monstrous wall of flames as it tried to flee. However, the wall of flames was broken by a blue light a split second later. 2 seconds later, the flying sword of ice glowed with a brilliant light as it descended upon the flaming bird's body. Swish! The six-winged golden flaming bird's body was sliced in half, and its flaming blood splattered through the air before being frozen into round ice beads by the fearsome power of ice. At the same time, all of the flaming birds in the sky were slain by the sword formation. Mo-Hai looked up at the earth-shattering sword strike and exclaimed in amazement, "What a powerful sword strike!" In terms of offensive power, Shangguan Yi is definitely the most powerful of our generation. He stowed the wind penalty disc away and looked toward Enlin's direction to find that the two strange silver metal puppets were looking around with confusion on their faces. Mo-Hai's lips twitched, and he couldn't help but ask, "These two idiots, are they the same as 4 Ji Yongfang?" Enlin shot a glance at Mo-Hai. "Who told you to unleash your trump card right from the start? You didn't even give my Gundams a chance to shine." Mo-Hai's eyes widened. Never would he have thought that Enlin would be able to pin the blame on him. "I've never seen such a shameless person." A long sword flew back from the sky, and there was a projection of a golden flaming feather attached to the blade of the sword. Shangguan Yi's body swayed slightly, and her face was extremely pale as if she had overexerted herself. However, a rare smile appeared on her face at the sight of the feather. The projection of a golden flaming feather indicated that it was a high-grade projection of the vermilion bird flame wing. Mo-Hai stared at the flaming feather in Shangguan Yi's hand with a hint of envy on his face. This was something that he had been desperately searching for. The flaming feather contained the aura of the vermilion bird, so it couldn't be stored in her storage ring. Hence, Shangguan Yi placed it in her pocket before extending a grateful bow. "Thank you, Mo-Hai and Enlin, for your help. Please accept the 100 or so projections of the vermilion bird flame wing in the sky." Only then did Mo-Hai and Enlin discover that there were over 100 projections of the low-grade vermilion bird flame wing floating in the sky. These projections were left behind by the spirit fire mutant beasts in the flock of vermilion bird flame wings. "Mr. Mo-Hai, you contributed the most, so I'll give my share to you," Enlin said without even turning his head. Mo-Hai rolled his eyes. "Should I be thanking you then? You're the hero who fought against the vermilion bird flame wings." "There's no need to thank me. Hurry up and put them away. The projections of the vermilion bird flame wing are about to float away." Enlin smiled before snuffing out his divine flames. The stir-fried tiger meat was officially complete. Enlin raised his head to discover that Shangguan Yi was also staring intently at the meat in his pot, and he waved a hand at her. "Ms. Shangguan Yi, do you want some meat to replenish your energy? Come over here." Shangguan Yi was initially going to decline in a reserved manner upon seeing Enlin waving at her, but she instinctively made her way over to him. The aroma of the meat was simply too alluring. "What kind of meat is this? It smells very unique." Shangguan Yi looked at the golden slices of meat in the pot with curiosity etched on her face. "It's the meat of the white flame tiger, but it's not because of the aroma, it's because of my cooking." And Lin's eyes lit up with a smile. "Would you like some, Ms. Shangguan Yi?" Shangguan Yi was initially going to decline in a reserved manner upon hearing this, but she nodded heavily instead. "Yes." A gratified smile appeared on Enlin's face. "There are about 300 slices of meat in this pot, and according to the market price of around 100,000 spirit stones per pot, each slice of meat should be worth around 300 spirit stones. How many slices would you like to eat, Ms. Shangguan Yi?" Shangguan Yi's eyes widened in shock. Mo-Hai had just returned from collecting the flame wings, and he almost tripped over himself upon hearing this. Holy F***CK. Ms. Enlin, 300 spirit stones per slice of meat? Are you AF** King Robber? Do you want your 100 slices of meat or not? If you do, then shut up." Enlin glared at Mo-Hai. Mo-Hai shut his mouth, and he was as obedient as to buy. At this moment, Shangguan Yi spoke with a smile. "All right, I'll buy 200 slices of meat." Enlin, Mo-Hai. Chapter 414. Enlin was completely stunned upon hearing Shangguan Yi's words. This woman was so powerful. There were only 300 slices of meat in the frying pan, and Amohai had to buy 100 slices while she had to buy 200 slices. It looked like Lin was going to King take the blame. I'm sorry, I can only sell 100 slices of meat at most. And Lin spoke with a nonchalant expression. He was the boss anyway, so he could set any conditions he wanted. All right, then give me 10 slices. Shangguan, he replied. And Lin. Amohai. And Lin accepted the 3,000 spirit stones before handing over bowls and chopsticks to Shangguan, and Amohai, and the three of them began to eat around the frying pan. Shangguan, had only wanted to join in on the fun, but she almost had an orgasm after eating her first slice of meat. My God, how could there be such delicious meat in this world? Amohai almost swallowed his own tongue. Brother and Lin, I finally understand why you have to stir-fry the meat even if you don't have to do it yourself. You really can't let down such delicious food. I'll give you 10 more slices of meat for that. And Lin spoke with a buoyant smile. Amohai's body trembled upon hearing this, and he immediately began to flatter Lin with all his might. Mr. Lin, I'm not trying to be sarcastic here, but cooking is power, cooking is talent, and cooking is righteousness. Amohai continued to babble, hoping that Lin would reward him with a few more slices of meat. Shangguan Yi's face was filled with remorse after eating her 10 slices of meat. Why didn't I buy more? Why was I so stupid? What was I doing? Shangguan Yi finally couldn't help but ask in a quiet voice, Mr. Lin, I want to buy more. Can I take back my words? And Lin raised his head to look at Shangguan Yi. She had always been referred to as an icy beauty by the disciples of the Vermilion Bird sect, but there was a hint of shyness and yearning on her face. He thought about it for a moment and decided that this was a long-term investment. Sister Shangguan Yi, I'm a member of the Vermilion Bird sect, so I'll give you another 90 slices of meat for free. We'll each get 100 slices of meat, and that's what I call sharing. Shangguan Yi was completely dazed for a few seconds before her eyes flashed with gratitude, as if she had been struck by an immense sense of bliss. Mr. Lin, thank you so much. You're such a good person. And Lin, Amohai blinked and said, That's not right. Aren't there only 300 slices of meat in the pot? I got 10 extra slices, so I have a total of 110 slices. Doesn't that mean fellow Taoist and Lin only has 90 slices? And Lin came to his senses and nodded. Fellow cultivator Amohai is right. Then I will deduct 10 pieces of meat from you. That way it will be fair. PFFF. Amohai threw up a mouthful of blood. He really wanted to slap his own mouth. F*CK. What the F*CK was he trying to suck up to just then? It was all a dog's fault. Shangguan Yi was also amused by this, and she covered her mouth with her hand as she giggled. The three of them finished all of the white tiger meat in the pot before sitting down on the grass. Sister Shangguan Yi, seeing as you've already found the projection of the high-grade vermilion bird flame wing and can activate the red spatial teleportation badge to return to the Vermilion Bird sect, why are you still here? Amohai asked. It's all thanks to your help that I was able to kill that heavenly fire mutant beast. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had a chance to kill that firebird. Now let me repay you. Shangguan Yi spoke with a calm expression and a firm voice. But the Vermilion Bird trial grounds are too dangerous. There's no need for you to take this risk. Amohai was a little hesitant. Amohai, you don't need to say anything else. I've already made my decision, Shangguan Yi said with an extremely serious expression. And Lin was a little perplexed as he looked at the two of them. Wasn't it a good thing to have a powerful ally? Why was Amohai trying to push her away? Right at this moment, he suddenly received a voice transmission. Mr. Lin, you have to say something as well. Can you persuade Sister Shangguan Yi to leave? And Lin blinked before transmitting his voice in reply. Why would I want to persuade her to leave? It's great to have a powerful ally, and she's a beautiful woman as well. You'll be destined to be alone for the rest of your life if you do this. Destined to be alone, my A*S. If she continues to follow us in the perilous Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds, we'll all be screwed. Mo-Hi's enraged voice sounded. You don't know her reputation, but her halo of bad luck is renowned throughout the Vermilion Bird sect, and she often encounters bad luck. Not only does she bring bad luck to herself, she brings bad luck to others as well. Do you think a flock of over 1,000 firebirds is a common occurrence? It's all because of her bad luck. And Lin's expression faltered slightly upon hearing this, and he was starting to sympathize with Shangguan Yi. He transmitted his voice to Mo-Hi in a meaningful and heartfelt manner. Mr. Mo-Hi, I'm not trying to criticize you, but as disciples of the Vermilion Bird sect, you should love one another instead of discriminating against one another. Sister Shangguan Yi is so pitiful. She's trying to help you, but you're trying to drive her away. Doesn't your conscience hurt? Halo of bad luck? You're just a F** king, superstitious person. Have you ever seen such a beautiful jinx? Mo-Hi, you'll regret this. And Lin rolled his eyes and couldn't be bothered to respond. Right at this moment, Mo-Hi and Shangguan Yi's expressions both shifted. They all took out a yellow divine talisman, and their faces became extremely solemn. What is it? And Lin's heart was also in his throat. If a core disciple encounters life-threatening danger nearby, the sect's divine seal will light up. From the looks of it, it's about 1,000 kilometers south of here, Shangguan Yi explained. That's about 1,000 kilometers into the mystic Treasure Mountain Range in the southern region of the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds. Lu Jiaji has gone to the west, and Ji Yongfang doesn't have the guts to go south, so it can only be that Yang Yuan is in danger there, Mo-Hi said with a grave expression. And Lin was a little perplexed. Don't we have teleportation badges? Can't we just teleport back if we encounter life-threatening danger? Shangguan Yi heaved a forlorn sigh. Brother Yang Yuan might have entered a mystic realm that's completely isolated from the outside world, or he might have encountered an enemy who knows how to use spatial techniques. All three of them fell silent at the end. Life and death in the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds were determined by fate. However, they didn't want to abandon a fellow disciple, so they had to make a difficult decision whether or not it was worth it to risk their lives to save him. The southern region of the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds had a mortality rate of over 90%. Even Yang Yuan, who was at the soul formation pinnacle stage, had encountered life-threatening danger there, so it was clear just how perilous that place was. A fierce expression appeared on Yang Yuan's face. I can't just sit back and do nothing when Brother Yang Yuan is in danger. I want to see just how dangerous the southern region of the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds is. I'll go too, Shangguan Yi chimed in, and Lin nodded without hesitation. I'll go with you. I'm the #1 in-name disciple of the Vermilion Bird sect after all, so I can't embarrass myself. The three of them smiled at one another before rising into the sky and flying toward the southern region of the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds. And Lin flew through the air atop his brick and looked down at the vast expanse of land in the distance with excitement in his heart. He didn't think that the development of this trial would force him to travel to the most dangerous place. Perhaps this was fate. However, his heart suddenly jolted, and he turned to look at Shangguan Yi as a thought occurred to him. It couldn't be because of her, could it? No, it had to be a coincidence. Chapter 415. The three of them quickly flew toward the location where the divine talisman was being released. The light from the divine talisman hadn't dissipated, which meant that Yang Yuan wasn't dead yet. He was merely in a dire situation. Flaming clouds tumbled in the sky above, and a series of scorching flames suddenly burst forth toward Lin and the others, forcing them to immediately lower their altitude. Not long after that, several more flaming birds pounced toward Lin and the others. The three of them didn't really mind at first, but when there were over 100 of them, they couldn't afford to ignore them anymore. We can't let them gather again. Otherwise, there will only be more and more of them. Shangguan Yi turned around and charged toward the flock of flaming birds with her long sword in hand. And Lin and Mo Hai also turned around and joined the fray. The 3 soul formation stage cultivators combined their powers, and the pack of normal fire mutant beasts and spirit fire mutant beasts was quickly wiped out. Humph! What a bunch of chickens that overestimate themselves. You dare to play a game of tag with me? Mo Hai hefted his crimson saber with a disdainful expression. Perhaps it's because they're too insignificant that they dare to challenge the might of Mount Tai. And Lin looked up into the sky with a lonely expression. Mo Hai's eyes lit up as he committed these lines to memory. Shangguan Yi stared at the 2 of them with astonishment on her face. What were they doing? The 3 of them were held up by the flock of flaming birds for a while before continuing toward their destination. Not long after, the fiery cloud surged, and several more firebirds appeared in front of them, swooping toward them. Before there were over 100 flaming birds, they killed all of them again. Immediately afterward, a 3rd wave of flaming birds arrived in Lin, and the others continued to kill them. After that, a 4th wave, a 5th wave, and a 6th wave arrived. Holy F***, CK. Why are there so many flaming birds in the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds? And Lin couldn't help but complain. Shangguan Yi blinked. Aren't there always a lot of flaming birds? I see them everywhere I go. They're like mosquitoes that fly out from the flaming clouds to chase after me. They're super annoying. And Lin, speaking of which, did we enter the same Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds? Why had Mo Hai and I only met the Firebird once after walking for so long, but she was always with us? A thought rose in Lin's mind, and he couldn't get rid of it. How is it? Isn't it strange? Mo Hai's voice rang in his ears, and Lin was completely speechless. He finally understood why Shangguan was being chased by over 1,000 flaming ravens. Based on the frequency at which the blazing birds appeared, if they were not killed in advance, or if they were unlucky, they would be able to gather 1,000 birds in less than 2 hours. The 3 of them fought their way to the border between the north and south of the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds. There was a mountain range that stretched for countless kilometers from east to west and was over 30,000 feet tall. It was like a natural chasm that separated this continent from the rest of the continent, making it impossible to see what lay in the southern region of the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds. And Lin and the others flew along the mountain wall. Suddenly, a huge gap appeared in the layer of fire clouds in the sky. Endless flames rained down from the sky like a waterfall, covering the space within 1,000 meters. The 3 of them were dumbfounded. There was such an attack. The flames were falling at an extremely fast speed, and there was no way for them to escape. And Lin reacted the quickest, and his black brick immediately expanded in size as he positioned himself above them. Come over here, this brick can keep it at bay. Mo Hai and Shangguan hurriedly flew over as he yelled. Boom! The black brick continued to descend from the terrifying impact, and flames seeped down from the edge of the black brick, making the 3 of them feel extremely uncomfortable. Shangguan Yi and Mo Hai both unleashed defensive techniques to keep the terrifying heat at bay. The flames continued to fall for a few minutes before subsiding. Thankfully, the black brick was extremely heat-resistant, so the 3 of them were able to escape unscathed. Mr. Lin, I didn't think that this brick of yours would be so useful. Shangguan Yi appraised the black brick with lingering fear in her heart. Of course. It's very ugly, but it's very useful. And Lin replied with a smug expression. Mo Hai looked up into the sky to find that the terrifying crack in the clouds had already disappeared. The dark red clouds had also become a grayish-black color, as if they had been completely depleted. He said, Time is of the essence, let's continue. And Lin and Shangguan nodded, and the 3 of them continued to ascend into the air. They didn't encounter any mishaps this time, and the 3 of them successfully passed through the tall mountain range. And Lin looked into the distance to find that the sky here was no longer dark red. Instead, it was a murky gray color, and he couldn't see how high up they were, nor could he tell what was above them. The ground below them was a vast expanse of white mountain ranges with no end in sight. This was an extremely barren white color with no plants to be seen. A series of scorching red rivers of flames surged through the mountain ranges like the veins of the earth, creating a stark contrast in color. And Lin and the others continued onward after a brief glance. Not long after that, over 1,000 gigantic crimson bats appeared before them, and all of them bared their fangs as they pounced toward them. There were also a few earth fire mutant beasts and a dozen or so spirit fire mutant beasts mixed among them. There are too many of them, let's run. And Mohai knew that this was not the time to be wasting time with mutant beasts, and he immediately suggested that the bats couldn't fly as quickly as they did. And Lin and Shangguan didn't have any objections, and they sped up as quickly as they could. However, they had only traveled a few kilometers before they crashed into a certain mystic realm with strange winds. These winds were omnipresent and constantly sapped away their energy. If they were to stay here, they would be ground to death within 15 minutes. Thankfully, Shangguan discovered where the Eye of the Wind was and destroyed it, thereby allowing the three of them to escape. Then he continued flying for another quarter of an hour before he inexplicably plunged into a poisonous domain. This type of poisonous mist obscured their vision, and even though Lin had his evergreen technique, he was only just barely able to prevent the poison from seeping into his body. As for Mohai, he had unleashed his domain to protect himself, but the poison still didn't manage to seep into his body, causing his skin to turn blue and his body to spasm uncontrollably. Thankfully, Shangguan was able to accurately pinpoint the source of the poison through the flow of the poisonous mist and killed the 10 earth flame venomous spiders, thereby allowing the three of them to escape. In the end, they also obtained 10 8th-grade golden immortal fruits from the earth flame spider's nest. Shangguan took 4, while Lin and Mohai each took 3. And Lin and Mohai were both very impressed by Shangguan Yi's ability to deal with perilous situations, and Shangguan expressed that she was already used to it. Tears welled up in Lin and Mohai's eyes upon hearing this. She was so strong. The three of them finally escaped from the poisonous mist domain, but they didn't even have a chance to catch their breath before they discovered over 1,000 terrifying mutant beasts migrating toward them. They were only about a kilometer away from each other, and they naturally encountered one another. 3 extremely powerful heavenly fire mutant beasts flew through the air, and behind them were a dozen or so earth fire mutant beasts, over 100 spirit fire mutant beasts, and over 1,000 normal fire mutant beasts. All of them stopped in their tracks before turning to Lin and the others with confusion and elation on their faces. And Mohai slapped his forehead and looked at Lin with a resigned expression. And Lin swallowed. What the F***, CK, what a coincidence. Chapter 416. 3 heavenly fire mutant beasts, 1 for each of us. Shangguan drew her sword and stood expressionlessly in front of the 3 of them, and Lin nodded. Mohai and I don't have a high-grade projection of the vermilion bird flamewing yet, but we're in luck this time. You call that luck? Mohai's face convulsed slightly, and he was extremely impressed by Lin's eloquence. The 3 heavenly fire mutant beasts in front of Lin and the others weren't very large, only around 10 feet in size, but their auras were suffocatingly powerful. There was a humanoid tiger with a pair of flaming wings and a black club in its hand, a 6-winged flame bird with blue flames all over its body, and a humanoid wolf with white scales all over its body. The heavenly fire mutant beasts were in no hurry to attack Lin and the others. Instead, they began to converse with one another with disdainful expressions on their faces. The humanoid tiger chuckled coldly. Chirp, 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 chirp. The humanoid flame bird shook its head. Chirp, 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 chirp. The humanoid wolf roared with killing intent. Howl! Holy F***, CK! How could you tolerate that? Mo Hai glowered at them with rage in his eyes. Shangguan, Yi, and Enlin turned to Mo Hai with shock on their faces. You can understand what they're saying? Mo Hai gritted his teeth. Do we even need to? We can tell from their expressions that they're mocking us. Shangguan, Yi, and Enlin, ding dong! The system suddenly chimed again, and Lin's heart jolted, and he hurriedly opened the system in his mind to find a line of text. Detected that the host is in contact with the ancient man language. If the host squeals like a pig at least 70 decibels, the ancient man language inheritance will be obtained. F*CKU. And Lin let loose a torrent of abuse. Shangguan, Yi, and Mo Hai both turned to look at Enlin upon hearing Enlin's enraged roar. Enlin forced himself to calm down as he turned to look at the 3 heavenly fire mutant beasts. To squeal or not to squeal, was knowledge more important or pride? As someone who loved to learn, he had no choice at all. Humph. Enlin mimicked the squeaks of a pig in his memory and began to squeak loudly. Mo Hai and Shangguan both stared at Enlin with bewilderment in their eyes. Mo Hai even dug his ears, as if he had misheard. Even the 3 heavenly fire exotic beasts fell silent and turned to look at Enlin. Enlin was so ashamed that his face turned red. He also realized that the system had not notified him that the quest had been completed. Wrong pronunciation? Oh, he shouted again, but the system did not respond. Aolo, goo-goo, woo-woo. Fellow Taoist Enlin, are you all right? Mo Hai's expression was very interesting. He didn't know whether to laugh or worry. Could it be that his mind is in a state of disarray due to the spider's poison mist? Shangguan Yi's brows furrowed with uncertainty, and Lin was about to collapse. He looked at the 2 people beside him with a pleading gaze and said, "Which one of you can squeak like a pig? Can you teach me?" Mo Hai, Shangguan Yi. Mo Hai looked at Enlin with a sympathetic expression. Mr. Enlin, you have to understand that you're a human, not a pig. Don't get it wrong. Shangguan Yi pulled out a green pill from her storage ring and handed it to Enlin with a nervous expression. Mr. Enlin, this is an antidote. Hurry up and eat it. I'm not poisoned. Enlin's chest constricted as he explained, I'm learning an ancient man language, which is the language of the heavenly fire exotic beasts. I need to use the correct sound of a pig to activate it. Teach me how a pig squeaks. Mo Hai's lips twitched. Mr. Enlin, even if you're not an idiot, you can't treat others like idiots. Glug glug. A refreshing sound suddenly sounded. Enlin and Mo Hai both turned to look at Shangguan Yi. A faint blush appeared on Shangguan Yi's face as she spoke in a low voice. The sound of a pig squeaking. She had initially wanted to reject Enlin's request in a reserved manner, but she felt like Enlin wasn't joking, so she couldn't help but cooperate. Thank you. Enlin turned to Shangguan Yi with a grateful expression. Glug glug. Enlin roared like a wild boar. His roar was extremely intimidating. Not only was Mo Hai astonished, but the 3 heavenly fire exotic beasts were also astonished. The humanoid tiger exclaimed in shock, Is this human a stupid C***? And Lin flared up with rage upon hearing this. You're a stupid C***. Your whole family is a stupid C***. Shangguan Yi blinked her bright eyes. You're cursing at the mutant beasts? And Lin finally came to his senses. He could already understand the humanoid tiger's language. However, he had used the Tai Chu language instead of the ancient man language, so the 3 mutant beasts didn't notice. A chill ran down the humanoid wolf's spine. That human seems to be cursing at us. Let's just kill them all. The flaming bird shook its head. No. The divine leader finally managed to capture a powerful being from the outside world and is preparing to sacrifice it to the demonic moon. If he fails, we still have a backup, so it's better to capture him alive. The humanoid tiger sighed in resignation. Then let's vote. The humanoid wolf immediately replied, I'll kill them all and eat them. After all, it's very difficult for our flame powers to progress any further. Eating them might be able to help us break through our bottlenecks. So who cares about the divine leader? The flaming bird glared at the humanoid wolf coldly. Watch your mouth. I'll capture him alive for the divine leader. The humanoid tiger hesitated. I forfeit. The humanoid wolf, humanoid tiger, and flaming bird heaved a collective sigh. We're back to square one, and Lynn. So this was what the 3 heavenly fire exotic beasts had been talking about. And they were voting in an infinite loop. My God, they're the stupid C** NTS. And Lin transmitted his voice to Mo Hai and Shangguan Yi. I know what they're talking about now. From their conversation, we can deduce that a mutant beast referred to as the divine leader captured Yang Yuan. They're actually in cahoots with the mutant beast that put Yang Yuan in danger. We'll keep that humanoid wolf alive and kill all the others. The humanoid wolf isn't very loyal to the divine leader, so we can interrogate them for information. Shangguan Yi's eyes lit up upon hearing this, and she looked at Enlin with a hint of admiration in her eyes. Mo Hai was completely dumbstruck as he stared at Enlin with a blank expression. Was imitating a pig really a way to activate the ancient man language? Was there something wrong with this world? My Gundams will take care of the minions. I'll be responsible for capturing the humanoid wolf alive, and the 2 of you will each be responsible for 1 heavenly fire exotic beast. Is that all right? And Lin continued to transmit his voice. Shangguan Yi turned to Enlin with concern on her face. Is it really all right for you to capture it alive? Capturing a mutant beast alive was even more difficult than killing it. One had to completely suppress the mutant beast in order to do so. Mo Hai replied with a calm expression, Sister, don't underestimate Enlin just because he's only at the soul formation initial stage. He's more powerful than I am. Enlin raised his chin slightly as the wind ruffled his white robe. He smiled confidently. Trust me, it's just capturing a puppy. It'll be a piece of cake. Chapter 417. Just as the 3 heavenly fire mutant beasts were still bickering with one another, Enlin and the others sprang into action. Shangguan Yi charged toward the 6-winged blue flame bird, leaving a trail of ice and snow in her wake. Mo Hai charged toward the humanoid tiger with his crimson saber slung over his shoulder, and his entire body transformed into a streak of crimson light. The 2 Gundams transformed into streaks of white light as they charged toward the army behind the heavenly fire mutant beasts. And Lin also flew toward the humanoid wolf with his evil-slaying sword in hand, but his aura was withdrawn, as if he were preparing for something. The 3 heavenly fire mutant beasts burst into laughter upon seeing that the humans were attacking them instead of running away. The humanoid tiger waved its black staff with a monstrous aura. Ignorant humans, I, the Black Lotus Tiger God, will show you what true power is. I don't care what you do. I'm going to eat all of these humans. A bloodthirsty smile appeared on the humanoid wolf's face as its claws suddenly elongated to a length of 3 feet. White flames revolved around its claws, which glowed with a cold light. The 6-winged blue flame bird remained silent as it pounced toward Shangguan. Boom! The powerful power of frost clashed with the blue flames, transforming the space within a radius of several thousand feet into a world of ice and fire. The saber in Mo Hai's hand clashed with the humanoid tiger's black staff, and the resulting shockwaves pulverized everything within a radius of over 1,000 feet. The humanoid wolf licked its sharp fangs as it looked at the oncoming Enlin. From the looks of it, you're the weakest among the 3 of them. It's been a long time since I've eaten meat, so I'll make you my first meal. It swiped its claws toward Enlin from afar, and a few white, flaming blades of wind shot forth from its claws. The flaming blades of wind increased in size as they traveled, and when they reached Enlin, they were already over 1,000 feet in length, leaving several bottomless trenches in the ground below. Enlin looked at the blades of wind and evaluated the power of the attack in his mind. It was about as powerful as an attack from a soul formation final stage cultivator. He might not have been able to defend himself when he was only a spirit-nurturing final stage cultivator, but he was already a soul formation stage cultivator now. And Lin slashed his evil-slaying sword toward the humanoid wolf in the distance. An extremely pure black sword ray streaked across the sky and slashed at the white flame wind blades. The werewolf was looking expectantly at the scene of Lin being sliced and roasted by the wind blades. But what he saw was an extremely shocking scene. The black sword projection sliced the wind blade in half, then slashed toward the white-scaled werewolf with unstoppable force. Roar! The werewolf's entire body burst forth with power, and the ground caved in to form a large crater. His body shot into the sky at extreme speed, evading the terrifying sword slash. However, right at this moment, a bolt of heavenly lightning descended from the sky. It was so fast that the werewolf couldn't react at all. Boom! The golden lightning struck the werewolf's head with overwhelming might, and the terrifying energy exploded, charring its entire body and causing thick black smoke to rise from it. After experiencing the golden void lightning tribulation, and Lin's lightning manipulation technique and lightning amplification technique could already imbue his lightning with a hint of the might of golden void lightning. Are you going to surrender or not? And Lin suddenly asked. The werewolf was already a little dazed by Lin's power, and its body trembled with shock upon hearing this. You know the ancient man language. I do know the ancient man language. I'll ask you again. Are you going to surrender or not? And Lin replied in an indifferent voice. Hell, you want me, the white-scaled wolf god, to surrender? Dream on. The werewolf roared with rage, and its white scales trembled slightly as its aura surged violently. A suit of white flaming armor appeared over its body, and its sharp claws glowed with an extremely dazzling light. Bam! The werewolf stomped through the air, sending shockwaves surging for over a kilometer. Its body broke through the speed of sound to reach Lin in the blink of an eye, and its sharp white claws descended with earth-shattering might. Sigh, the sharp claws had already descended upon Lin, tearing his body into several pieces. Boom! The werewolf's claws also tore through the ground, creating 5 gashes that extended for several hundred meters. The werewolf was just about to rejoice when he suddenly discovered that his torn body had actually turned into white mist and dissipated. Mist immortal technique. The hair on the werewolf's body stood on end as an extremely powerful sense of impending doom engulfed its entire body. It was just about to turn around when the black sword projection had already descended upon it. Heaven and earth dimmed with a single sword strike. The inky black sword blade tore through the werewolf's flaming armor, sliced open its extremely tough white scales, and engulfed the ground in a radius of over a kilometer. Howl! The werewolf howled in agony as it hurtled back in retreat with an expression of shock and horror. Blood splattered through the air, and a thick arm had already fallen to the ground. Are you going to surrender or not? And Lin's voice was like a frosty gust of wind, causing the werewolf's hair to stand on end. An expression of horror appeared on the werewolf's face for the first time. This human was far too terrifying. Prior to the battle, it had thought that this human's aura wasn't very powerful, and that he would be the weakest among the 3 of them. But now, it looked like he was the weakest. It didn't even have a chance to touch this human before it was crippled. From the looks of it, even the 3 heavenly fire mutant beasts might not be able to defeat him. Not going to say anything? Then let's continue. A white light flashed through Lin's eyes. Howl! The werewolf howled to bolster its courage, and it gathered its divine sense as white flames soared into the sky, melting the ground within a radius of over 100 meters with its terrifying temperatures. Ghostly wolf pounce! The humanoid wolf stepped forward, and it was as if his body had transformed into a white meteorite as he hurtled toward Lin, incinerating everything in his wake into ashes. And Lin's eyes narrowed. This attack was comparable to an attack from a cultivator at the soul formation pinnacle stage, and he would most likely be injured if he took it head-on. A pair of wings suddenly spread open on his back, and he flew into the sky at an extremely fast speed. To his surprise, a cruel smile appeared on the werewolf's face. This was an attack that had been unleashed by burning its blood essence, and its speed was even slightly faster than in Lin's wings of wind. It followed Lin into the sky, and the distance between them drew closer and closer. Boundless flames erupted from its sharp white claws as it prepared to unleash its most lethal attack. "Die!" it roared as it lashed out with its claws, and the space around it tremored as heaven and earth paled in comparison. And Lin's expression remained unchanged as he looked at the werewolf. However, heaven and earth suddenly dimmed. Within the boundless darkness, the white-scaled werewolf's body was struck by the agony of being torn to shreds. "Hell!" the white-scaled werewolf howled with anguish. When light returned to heaven and earth, the sharp claws had already torn through the dark clouds, revealing 5 holes that extended for over a kilometer each, but Lin was nowhere to be seen. The werewolf turned its head with difficulty to discover that Lin had already appeared behind it. Splat! Over 100 sword wounds suddenly appeared on the werewolf's body, from which blood splattered into the air. Its body crashed powerlessly into the ground, creating a massive crater, and Lin's white robe danced in the wind as he landed gracefully in front of the werewolf. And he looked down at the werewolf with a cold expression. "Do you surrender or not?" He asked the same question again. His voice was like a frosty gale, causing the werewolf's body to tremble uncontrollably. The werewolf was truly terrified. This man's power was far too terrifying, and it was not something it could handle. Up until this point, this man's attacks had not been repeated at all. He was King, abusing a dog. I. The werewolf stared at Lin in shock and horror. It had a feeling that if it continued to refuse to surrender, it would most likely die. And Lin looked at the werewolf, and a golden light suddenly flashed through his eyes as boundless divine might erupted from his body. The humanoid wolf looked at Lin as if he were looking at a peerlessly powerful being who could engulf heaven and earth. The only thing it could do was submit. Divine might technique. This was the final straw that broke the werewolf's back and destroyed its will. "Please don't kill me. I'm willing to surrender." The werewolf trembled as it bowed its head. There was no longer any killing intent on its face, only an expression of uncontrollable reverence. A satisfied smile appeared on Lin's face. The werewolf's attempt to devour humans to increase its power and its disrespect toward the divine leader indicated that it was extremely selfish and fearful of death. This type of creature would definitely compromise with powerful beings in order to survive, so it was the easiest to capture and subdue. And Lin continued, "Then let's sign the slave contract." Chapter 418. Slave contract? You want me, the white-scale wolf god, to be your slave? What a joke! The humanoid wolf exploded with rage upon hearing Lin's words. Signing a slave contract was a humiliation to any living being. Once it became a slave, it wouldn't be able to do anything to resist its master, and the master could decide the life or death of the slave with a single thought. This was an extremely unfair contract, and Lin didn't say anything. Instead, he raised his evil-slaying sword high into the air, and the inky black blade of the sword seemed to be threatening to engulf all light. The humanoid wolf's teeth chattered as it looked up at the terrifying long sword, but it still lowered its head in the end. "All right, I agree," and Lin nodded and didn't say anything else. He released a drop of golden blood essence, which began to exude bursts of peculiar energy, fluctuations under the enhancement of his cultivation method. The drop of blood landed on the humanoid wolf's head, and an invisible connection was established, thereby sealing the contract. A disconsolate expression appeared on the humanoid wolf's face. Who would have thought that I, the revered white-scale wolf god, would be reduced to the level of a human slave. And Lin clasped his hands behind his back and looked up into the sky. It is your honor to be the slave of the #1 prodigy of the celestial court, the #1 immortal chef of the kingdom of the 9 states, the #1 arrogant cultivator of the entire continent, Sword Immortal and Lin. The humanoid wolf faltered slightly upon hearing this, and it turned to look up at Enlin. Amidst the darkness, it was as if Enlin's body had been enshrouded by a layer of light. A peerless sense of confidence and heroism soared into the heavens, making him appear extremely tall and mighty. The white-scale wolf god was extremely excited. Only after hearing all these titles did it realize just how powerful its master was. And Lin tossed a first-grade spirit pill, bone-forming pill, to the humanoid wolf. Take this pill and reattach your severed arm. It'll be able to heal your severed arm. Let's go check out the situation elsewhere. The humanoid wolf accepted the bone-forming pill with excitement on its face and nodded respectfully before immediately running off to reattach its severed arm. Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 battled over 1,000 mutant beasts and were forced into retreat. They could only just barely delay the army. After all, there were a dozen or so Earthfire mutant beasts holding the line, and they were all extremely powerful. And Lin stared at the 2 Gundams before turning to the humanoid wolf behind him. White-scale wolf god, it's time for your performance now. I'll leave these mutant beasts to you. The werewolf gritted its teeth. It knew its master's orders couldn't be disobeyed. Having recovered from some of its injuries with great difficulty, it could only charge into the herd of exotic beasts and start chopping them up. The humanoid tiger and the 6-winged blue flame bird's expressions changed drastically upon seeing this. Motherf asterisk her, you ungrateful wretch. You actually dare to rely on the enemy. I, your father, will kill you in a moment. Tigerman's angry roar spread out for several li, deafening like a clap of thunder. The werewolf was unmoved. He continued to chop vegetables and slaughter the beasts. If it didn't surrender, it would have died long ago. How could it have the opportunity to hear the Tiger Man say such words to it? Another clear sword cry rang out, and the hundreds of strange beasts felt a bone-chilling gust of wind blow over. And Lin turned toward a certain direction to discover that Shangguan Yi's long sword had already sliced through the 6-winged blue flame bird's neck. The area within a radius of 2.5 kilometers had been transformed into a vast expanse of ice and snow, like a white mirror in the middle of a vast black mountain range. And Lin sighed with emotion. Shangguan Yi's ice-type techniques were truly astonishing. She was only at the soul formation intermediate stage, but she was able to defeat a heavenly fire mutant beast that was comparable to a soul formation final stage cultivator with her extremely powerful ice-type sword techniques. He wondered how she learned this. Could it be that she was able to attain the power of the Tao of Ice just by watching sect powerful beings play with fire? That was way 2F asterisk King insane. Finally, he turned toward the area where Mo Hai was battling. Mo Hai's domain was a blood flame domain, and it had now completely expanded. The humanoid tiger's blood essence power also began to erupt, and its eyes turned crimson as it swung its black staff through the air like a humanoid cannon, causing mountains to crumble and the earth to shatter with every swing of its staff. There were already a few mountains that had been smashed into smithereens by the residual force of the black staff. Mo Hai's crimson, frenzy blood saber techniques were also renowned for their domineering nature, but he was forced into retreat by the humanoid tiger. And Lin couldn't help but ask, Mr. Mo Hai, are you sure you can handle this? Do you need help? Mo Hai almost threw up a mouthful of blood upon hearing this. Are you F asterisk King blind? Can't you see that I'm being bullied? Do you really have to say something like that? However, and Lin really didn't know whether Mo Hai needed help or not. Who knew if Mo Hai still had some trump cards up his sleeve? What if he interfered and disrupted Mo Hai's battle mood? What if he got scolded for not respecting his battle style? After all, Didn't all men like to fight fair and square? Mo-Hai had to defend against the humanoid tiger's ferocious attacks, and he couldn't even divert his attention to speak. He had thought that Enlin would come over to help, but it turned out that Enlin was just standing off to the side and watching the show. How sad, Bam! This time, the humanoid tiger's muscles bulged, and an extremely fearsome force erupted from its black staff, sending Mo-Hai flying. Mo-Hai threw up a mouthful of blood, and his vision darkened. "Mr. Enlin, help me." Enlin finally sprang into action upon hearing this. He spread open his wings of wind and quickly flew toward Mo-Hai. The humanoid tiger looked at the approaching Enlin. Then, at the sight of the six-winged flame bird's death and the humanoid wolf's betrayal, he immediately fled with all his might. Enlin heaved a faint sigh. "No one has ever successfully escaped from me," soared immortal Enlin. His wings of wind extended to a length of 5 meters, and he instantly broke through the sound barrier to reach 5 times the speed of sound as he flew toward the humanoid tiger. Roar! The humanoid tiger activated the power of blood within his body, and his speed was almost on par with Enlin's. A cold light flashed in Enlin's eyes as he unleashed his 6 techniques of the war god. First technique, Wind Sword. Using the buff brought by the skill, his speed increased once again, reaching 7 times the speed of sound. He covered a distance of 2 kilometers in a single breath before slashing his evil slaying sword down upon the humanoid tiger's back. The evil slaying sword was at the pinnacle of the immortal tool pinnacle, and the humanoid tiger's body was sliced in half as he was completely defenseless. An expression of shock and horror still remained on the humanoid tiger's face prior to his death, as if he hadn't expected Enlin to be this fast. At the same time, a golden flaming wing appeared in the air. This was a high-grade projection of the vermilion bird flame wing. Enlin accepted the flaming wing without any hesitation before flying toward Mo-Hai with a joyful expression. Mo-Hai swallowed some pills to recover from his injuries before gratefully accepting the projection of the vermilion bird flame wing from Shangguan-Yi. Now, everyone had a high-grade projection of the vermilion bird flame wing, and they had successfully completed the trial. He looked at the triumphant Enlin with a hint of melancholy in his heart. "Mr. Enlin, how on earth did you cultivate? You're only at the soul formation initial stage, but you're beating up heavenly fire mutant beasts like they're your own children." Mo-Hai was very confident in Enlin's abilities, but he was still given a fright after witnessing Enlin's terrifying speed and swordsmanship. Shangguan-Yi also turned to look at Enlin. She was clearly also quite surprised by the power he had displayed. "They're only soul formation, final stage, mutant beasts. I could already beat them up like they were my own children when I was only at the spirit nurturing final stage," Enlin replied. Mo-Hai was struck by a sense of awe and veneration toward Enlin. Shangguan-Yi. Soon, over 1,000 mutant beasts were wiped out by the combined efforts of the Gundams and the humanoid wolf. The humanoid wolf looked at the corpses of the humanoid tiger and the blue flame bird with a hint of sorrow in its heart. "What a dumb bird and a dumb tiger. They should have just surrendered like I did. In this cruel world, only by being flexible can we live longer." The humanoid wolf shook its head and heaved a forlorn sigh before making its way toward its master.